Chapter 1. Solitary North City, Jianzuan Sect. Today was the triennial assessment ceremony. All the outer sect disciples of Jianzuan Sect were gathered in the outer court. In the middle of the square of the outer court stood a huge black stone tablet. The stone tablet was covered with dense lines that looked like the words of Tao. No one could understand them. At least, no one could understand the words on the stone tablet in the past 1,000 years. This stone tablet was the foundation of Jianzuan Sect, the Jianzuan Tao tablet. 3,000 years ago, there was a genius who was born. He dominated the world and suppressed all the heroes. Finally, he established Jianzuan Sect. Everything that he had learned was engraved on this Jianzuan Tao tablet. Unfortunately, ever since the previous sect master died, no one in Jianzuan Sect could comprehend the Jianzuan Tao tablet. Jianzuan Sect's strength fell drastically. It had fallen from being one of the top sects to being a mere ninth-rate sect. Outer court disciples, the assessment begins. Those who fail will be expelled from Jianzuan Sect, Elder Xian, who was in charge of the assessment ceremony, said. The assessment ceremony was simple. One only needed to place their palm on the Jianzuan Tao tablet. If the Jianzuan Tao tablet shone, they could proceed to the next step of the assessment, which was to enter the Nine-Stack Sect. However, all of a sudden, an extremely arrogant and domineering laugh echoed in the air. Ha! I didn't die! This young man was called Jiangqin. He was 17 years old. At this moment, he was laughing wildly. There was an indescribable arrogance deep in his eyes. To be exact, he was not Jiangqin in the past. He was the founder of Jianzuan Sect, Jiangqin. He was once the strongest person in Godless Continent. He was also the king of gods above the 9 heavens, Tianqin deity king. 1,000 years ago, he was besieged by 36 divine sovereigns when he was opening the sky, and died. But unexpectedly, a wisp of his remnant soul managed to survive. His soul traveled through 1,000 years and attached itself to Jiangqin, who had just died a short while ago. They had the same name and were both in Jianzuan Sect. Perhaps this is a kind of fate, a chance for me to rise once again. Jiangqin laughed maniacally, his eyes brimming with arrogance and unruliness. The 36 chief gods? When I return to the continent of the 9 clouds, I will use my godly blood to open the firmament. Jiangqin! Don't mess around during the examination! Elder Xian furrowed his brows and reprimanded. Elder Xian paid more attention to Jiangqin. After all, he was known as a piece of trash. He had joined the sect for 3 years, but his cultivation had not improved at all. Everyone in the Jianzuan Sect knew who he was. Not only Elder Xian, but the other disciples also believed that Jiangqin would be expelled from the Jianzuan Sect after today's trial. Fooling around? If I cause trouble, even the heavens don't have the right to control me. Jiangqin's eyes narrowed, but he quickly calmed down. After all, he had just been reborn and had no cultivation at all. He should keep a low profile. However, what was this examination ceremony to Jiangqin? The Jianzuan Tao steel was built by him. Did he need the Jianzuan Tao steel to acknowledge his aptitude and talent? Did the Tao steel have the right? Brother Qin, take it easy. Elder Xian is famous for his iron face. If you continue to mess around, he will definitely punish you severely. Beside Jiangqin, a little fatty who was a head shorter than him said softly. The little fatty's name was Jianglu. He and Jiangqin were sworn brothers and came from the same family, the Jiang family of Qinchuan. Jianglu was a branch disciple of the Jiang family and had a low status. On the other hand, Jiangqin was the young master of the Jiang family. However, because Jiangqin's aptitude and talent were too poor, he could not cultivate. In addition, his mother was missing and his father was severely injured. His cultivation was crippled, and the power of the family fell into the hands of the great elder. Thus, he was sent to this 9th-rate sect to perish on his own. Then I'll keep a low profile and be more obedient. Jiangqin smiled bitterly. He had just been reborn and did not even have any cultivation. If Elder Xian wanted to punish him, he would not even have the strength to resist. Then, the examination ceremony began. The outer sect disciples placed their palms on the Qianzuan Dao stele one after another. Anyone who was acknowledged by the Qianzuan Dao stele would have the Dao stele shine. It meant that they had passed the first round of examination and could enter the 9 stele door for the rest of the examination. Before long, it was Jiang Chen's turn. At this moment, Jiang Chen stood in front of the Qianzuan Dao stele with a bitter smile on his face. His soul was reincarnated. Although his physical body had changed, his soul had not. Back then, he had personally built the Qianzuan Dao stele. Was it qualified to receive his hand? What did the great Tianqin Supreme Being need a Dao stele to acknowledge? Sigh, I'll press it. After hesitating for a while, Jiangqin smiled bitterly and pressed his palm gently on the Qianzuan Dao stele. Boom! However, as soon as his palm touched the Qianzuan Dao stele, a loud explosion was heard. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, the Qianzuan Dao stele that had stood for thousands of years collapsed and turned into dust. This can't be blamed on me, right? Jiangqin mumbled. Although he knew that this would be the result, it was not easy to clean up the mess now. He could not tell these people that he was the founder of the Qianzuan sect and the king of deities, could he? Who would believe him if he said that? No one would believe him. The Qianzuan Dao stele collapsed? The Qianzuan Dao stele is the founding object of the Qianzuan sect. If this object is destroyed, does this mean that the Qianzuan sect is going to be destroyed? Around them, there were exclamations of shock. Some of the more cowardly people turned pale and sat on the ground. Even Elder Xian was trembling all over. His lips were pale and there was no trace of blood. It's my fault, I shouldn't have pressed it. Look at how scared these people are. It's just a broken stone. Jiangqin covered his face, feeling a little embarrassed. What did you do? Why did the Qianzuan Dao stele collapse? Elder Xian's face turned pale and there was a hint of fear in his eyes. One should know that the Qianzuan Dao stele was extremely sturdy. Even if it was attacked by a divine weapon, it might not be destroyed. However, a person with no cultivation base had destroyed the indestructible Qianzuan Dao stele with a gentle palm strike. It was terrifying to think about. How would I know? I'm a famous piece of trash in the Qianzuan sect. I don't know. Jiangqin was dumbfounded, but he was wondering why a stone stele he had built casually in the past had become so valued by people now. Wait until the sect leader and the 3 elders come, Elder Xian said coldly. He glanced at Jiangqin and thought to himself, what does the destruction of the Qianzuan Dao stele have to do with a piece of trash? Maybe this is the end of the Qianzuan sect. Chapter 2. Perhaps it was the end of the Qianzuan sect's life. Not long after, the patriarch of the Qianzuan sect, Lu Qingqin, and the 3 elders arrived at the square. Lu Qingqin and the 3 elders stood in front of the collapsed Dao stele with sorrowful faces. The Qianzuan sect was established with the Dao stele as its foundation. Now that the Dao stele was gone, it was most likely the end of the Qianzuan sect. It seems like the Qianzuan sect has come to an end after the previous patriarch died in an accident. Patriarch Lu Qingqin sighed helplessly. He waved his hand at the crowd and sighed. The Qianzuan sect has nothing to teach you. Those who want to stay, stay, and those who want to leave, leave. As soon as these words were spoken, 50 to 60 people stood up on the spot. Without saying a word, they turned around and left. After all, what kind of sect was the Qianzuan sect after losing their foundation? They were not even qualified to be called a 9th-tier sect. In just a few moments, only around 50 of the 300 outer disciples were left. The rest of the people had chosen to leave the Qianzuan sect. Lu Qingqin and the elders did not stop them, nor did they treat them badly. After all, at the moment when the full exalted Dao stele was destroyed, the beliefs of these people had crumbled. There was nothing to teach them, and they had no intention to stay. It was as if the Qianzuan sect would be disbanded today. Are you crazy? It's just a lousy stele. If I hadn't been bored, this steel would still have been used as a stepping stone in the latrine. Jiangchen couldn't help but curl his lips when he witnessed this. He was surprised. He really didn't expect that these people would value the venerable doctrine steel so much. The Qianzun Dao steel was only a steel that Jiangchen had randomly picked up. There was nothing on it. Those patterns seemed obscure, but in the end, Jiangchen had drawn them casually. He had done it for the sake of making it look cool and impressive. Apart from that, the Qianzun Dao steel was completely useless. The Qianzun Dao steel was the foundation and faith of the Qianzun sect. Everyone believed that the fall of the Honorable Dao steel was equivalent to the destruction of the Honorable sect. However, what these people didn't know was that this full Venerable Dao steel was just something that Jiangchen had randomly placed here when she was bored. However, there was a strand of Jiangchen's imprint inside the full Reverend Dao steel. It had also been blessed by Jiangchen before, so it had spiritual intelligence. Others might not be able to sense Jiangchen's true identity, but the full venerated Dao steel could see it clearly. How could this complete Dao steel have the qualifications to recognize Jiangchen's talent? Therefore, it collapsed. Disciples who are still willing to stay can continue with the assessment and enter the 9 Stacks sect. At this moment, Lu Qingchen's expression was ugly, and he felt even more upset in his heart. However, the test still had to continue. However, in such a short period of time, the other outer disciples had all left. Now, in the entire outer sect, only Jiangchen and Jianglu were left. Well, I'm the only one left. Why don't I stop with the assessment? Jiangchen blinked his eyes and looked around. In just a short period of time, the remaining disciples had all left. Only he and Jianglu were left. Then, should he continue with the assessment? Did it have to be so serious? You can leave the honorable sect, but you can't break the rules of the honorable sect. Lu Qingchen said softly. The destruction of the Honorable Dao steel has nothing to do with you. You don't have to blame yourself. This is the end of the Honorable sect's fate. I'll just be an outer disciple. I don't want to continue with the assessment. Jiangchen frowned and looked at the door in front of him. His heart was filled with melancholy. The next assessment was to enter the 9 Stacks sect. If Jiangchen could obtain the recognition of the 9 Stacks sect's God's will, he could become an inner disciple. However, Jiangchen really didn't want to go. However, Lu Qingchen was very old-fashioned. He clearly told Jiangchen that if he didn't continue with the assessment, he would be expelled from the honorable sect. It's a sect established by myself. If I'm expelled from it, it will become a joke, won't it? Jiangchen thought to himself. His face darkened. Looking toward Lu Qingchen, he said, "Don't regret it." Regret? What nonsense are you talking about? Lu Qingchen was dumbfounded. Naturally, he didn't know what Jiangchen meant. As for Jiangchen, he didn't bother to say anything more. Since he was allowed to enter the 9 Stacks sect, he would enter. However, Jiangchen didn't care about what would happen after he entered the place. There was a big door at the side of the square in the outer yard. This door was the 9 Stacks sect. Behind the door was a wide bluestone road. On both sides of the road stood 9 statues of gods. Jiangchen was already standing outside the 9 Stacks sect according to the rules of the honorable sect. Ha, my 8 disciples. Jiangchen's expression was extremely strange because 8 of the 9 statues were his disciples. Currently, the 8 of them were still above the 9 heavens, acting like gods. As for the 9th statue, it was his own. Then I'll go. Jiangchen turned around, glanced at Lu Qingchen and the other elders, and then took a step forward. Boom! However, as soon as he took a step forward, an explosion occurred inside the 9 Stacks sect. After 3 steps, when Jiangchen arrived in front of the first statue, which was his youngest disciple, the statue emitted rays of divine light. After the divine light, the statue collapsed. Don't. Give your master some face and don't collapse. Jiangchen felt bitter in his heart. He was so depressed that he wanted to die. One should know that these statues contained the remnant souls of the 8 disciples. Naturally, the remnant souls could sense Jiangchen's identity. Even if a real god were here, he wouldn't be qualified to acknowledge Jiangchen. Moreover, these were just a few statues. Moreover, the people in these statues were all Jiangchen's disciples. Not collapsing? Did he dare to? Did he offend his superior? Or did he want to control Tianqin Deity King? Boom! Next, when Jiangchen arrived at the second statue, before he could say anything, the statue collapsed with a loud bang. Outside the nine-stack sect, Lu Qingqin and the others had already turned pale with fright. They really couldn't understand why the statue of the gods that had been standing tall and upright had collapsed. Was it because of this young man? I don't want to take the test anymore, right? If I continue, these statues will be gone. Jiangchen turned around and looked at Lu Qingqin and the others with a wry smile. The rules can't be broken. Continue. Lu Qingqin frowned, and his eyes shone brightly. Naturally, he noticed a trace of abnormality. However, in his eyes, Jiangchen was still Jiangchen, the trash without any cultivation base. Rules? What stupid rules? Did I set such rules in the past? Jiangchen was speechless. How could he remember something that had happened 3,000 years ago? Boom! Boom! Next, Jiangchen did not ask anything and continued to walk forward. When he arrived in front of his own statue, the 8 statues in front of him had all collapsed. Chapter 3. The Qianzun Dao stele has been destroyed, and the 8 statues have collapsed. The heavens are trying to destroy our Qianzun sect. This is a jinx, a scourge. It will bring disaster to the Qianzun sect. Outside the 9 stacks gate, many elders lamented. Only Lu Qingqin was slightly calmer, but the shock in his eyes could not be concealed. This statue. Who made it? At this moment, Jiangchen suddenly turned around, his expression extremely ugly. That was because the appearance of his own statue, especially that face, was simply too ugly. Tianqin Deity King was not only the king of the deities, but his appearance was also known as the representative of the deities. As a result, the statue's appearance was simply unbearable to look at. This statue's appearance is simply ruining my reputation. Jiangchen frowned, waved his hand, and said softly, "What are you waiting for? It's so ugly, but it's still in this world. Hurry up and disappear." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, the statue in front of him suddenly disintegrated, turning into dust that filled the sky. At this point, all 9 statues had collapsed. There should be an explanation. Jiangchen thought to himself. He had just been reborn, and he did not want to cause any trouble. Of course, Jiangchen was not afraid, but he did not want to delay his cultivation. I know that a wisp of your divine soul remnant is still here, and you can't come down from the 9 heavens. Then help me solve this problem. Otherwise, when I return to the 9 heavens you... Humph! Jiangchen said softly. Buzz! Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, 9 wisps of divine soul remnant were gathered in the 9 stacks gate. After a few breaths, a line of large words appeared in the sky, illuminating half of the sky of the Qianzun sect. Confer this person the title of sage, and make him the master of the 9 stacks gate. What? This is a deity's decree. This kid has been recognized by the deities. At this moment, not only Lu Qingqin and the others, but everyone in the Qianzun sect was shocked. The giant ancient character flashed with divine light, as if it was formed by the laws of the great Tao, and it carried with it the might of a god. Under the ancient characters, Jiangchen was bathed in divine light. He smiled and nodded to himself. These little guys are quite good at doing things. At that moment, exclamations could be heard all around. Even sect master Lu Qingqin and the 3 elders exclaimed in astonishment. At the same time, everyone's eyes were focused on Jiangchen. What was the meaning of everything that had happened before? Was the Qianzun sect's fate coming to an end? Was it going to be destroyed? Or was it a form of hope? The decree of the gods had arrived. Sainthood, supremacy. This kind of thing had never happened on the godless continent in the past 10,000 years. This was a miracle. The heavens want my Qianzuan sect to perish? No! Heaven wants to bless my Qianzuan sect. God's decree! Everyone exclaimed and became even more excited. After all, as mortals, they had absolute trust in the gods. However, Lu Qingqian, the current sect master of the Qianzuan sect, frowned. He entered the 9 stacks door and walked up to Jiangqin. He squinted his eyes as if he was trying to see through Jiangqin. Jiangqin remained calm. He looked straight at Lu Qingqian with an unruly grin. That slightly pale countenance, that handsome appearance, that ramrod straight figure, the wisp of indifference and confidence in his eyes, and the arrogance and unruly expression in the depths of his pupils were like a wisp of unforgettable lightning that was branded into Lu Qingqian's heart at this moment. May I know your name? Lu Qingqian asked. You flatter me. I'm just an outer disciple, a well-known piece of trash, Jiangqin said softly. His eyes flickered fiercely. The entire Qianzuan sect had been established by him. However, it seemed like the Qianzuan sect had declined. The number 1 sect in the world that he had spent so much effort to establish had not been reduced to such a state. How could Jiangqin not be angry? A well-known piece of trash? An outer disciple? Lu Qingqian frowned and placed his hand on Jiangqin's shoulder. Suddenly, a strong stream of true qi rushed into Jiangqin's body. During this process, Lu Qingqian's brows furrowed even tighter. 9 spiritual meridians, but none of them have been opened. He has no cultivation at all? Lu Qingqian was dumbfounded. In his opinion, someone who could destroy the Qianzuan Dao steel and the 9 statues should be extremely talented, even if he was just an outer disciple. However, it seemed like Jiangqin was really a piece of trash. Sect Master, this person's name is Jiangqin. He has been in the sect for 3 years, but none of his spiritual meridians have been opened. His cultivation is 0. He is a well-known piece of trash in the entire Qianzuan sect. Elder Xian trotted over and said softly, This person is just a coincidence. He has the right time and place. He shouldn't be the hope of the Qianzuan sect. Is that so? Is he really a piece of trash? Am I overthinking? Lu Qingqian was puzzled. He looked at Jiangqin meaningfully and said, Perhaps the god's decree is not for you. Obviously, Lu Qingqian was still doubtful and did not trust Jiangqin. Oh, if the god's decree is not for me, who is it for? Jiangqin raised his eyebrows. How could he not know what Lu Qingqian was thinking? According to the god's decree, Jiangqin was now the Qianzuan sect's sect master. As for Lu Qingqian, he naturally had to step aside. Lu Qingqian naturally did not want to give up the position of sect master. You don't have any cultivation at all. I'm afraid the god's decree is not for you, Lu Qingqian said. Maybe it's for me. Shame? Jiangqin was dumbfounded. He was furious and said coldly, I don't have any cultivation? Then tell me, at my age, what kind of cultivation do I have to have? At your age, you have to open at least 3 spiritual meridians, Lu Qingqian said. 3 spiritual meridians at my age? How much do you look down on me? Jiangqin pursed his lips and raised his eyebrows. As long as I want to, I can open all 9 spiritual meridians now. What? What nonsense is this kid talking about? Now? Immediately? Open all 9 spiritual meridians? Ha, interesting. Young people really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Trash doesn't know the difficulty of cultivation. In an instant, mocking voices sounded. Even Lu Qingqian showed a trace of dissatisfaction and disbelief. Although there was a god's decree, Jiangqin's words were like a joke in everyone's ears. Chapter 4. The godless continent cultivated martial arts and Tao. The 4 levels of the martial Tao were spirit, body, thought, and origin. Each level was further divided into upper, middle, and lower levels. For example, Elder Xian was at the lower level of the body realm. Lu Qingqin was at the middle level of the origin realm. As for the spirit realm, it was to open the 9 spirit veins in the body and raise one's aptitude. From there, one could draw upon the qi of heaven and earth for one's own use and defend oneself. Opening 3 spirit veins meant that 1 was at the lower level of the spirit realm, 6 was at the middle level, and 9 was at the upper level. Those who cultivated all knew that cultivation wasn't easy. No matter how high one's aptitude was, it was impossible for an ordinary person to open 9 spirit veins in a day. A bunch of disciples and grand disciples, you don't even believe the words of your ancestor, huh? Jiangqin couldn't help but laugh mockingly in his heart when he heard the voices around him and looked at Lu Qingqin's expression. Then, without waiting for the crowd to react, Jiangqin circulated the 9 carols heavenly star. This cultivation method was at the lower level of the yellow rank. According to the ranking of cultivation methods, there were 4 levels: heaven, earth, mystic, and yellow. Each level was divided into upper, middle, and lower levels. This 9 carols heavenly star was the lowest level cultivation method. However, what Jiangqin was going to practice was exactly this method of the lowest level. In the span of 6 breaths, the crowd had only blinked 3 times at most when they heard a rumbling sound come from Jiangqin's body. For a moment, a red light appeared on Jiangqin's body, and the qi of heaven and earth around him swarmed in. Red light has appeared and qi has entered the body. This is the manifestation of the opening of the first spirit vein. What? Not a single spirit vein was opened before, and now one has been opened in less than 6 breaths of time? The disdainful voices turned into cries of surprise at this moment. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. Even Lu Qingqin's eyes were wide open, unable to believe the scene before his eyes. However, this matter was only a small matter to Jiangqin. He was once the strongest man on the godless continent, and was hailed as the divine king Tianqin. Even if he had been reborn and had no cultivation at all, opening a few spirit veins was as simple as eating to him. Moreover, the lowest level 9 carols heavenly star cultivation method was endlessly profound and far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. 1. At this moment, another rumbling sound came from Jiangqin's body. The surrounding heaven and earth yuan-qi rushed into his body like a gale, and an orange light burst out from his body. It's just the vision of a mortal, Jiangqin said softly, but the 9 carols heavenly stars technique was still circulating. At this moment, the surroundings were completely silent. Only the yuan-qi of heaven and earth was surging like a gale. That whistling sound was intimidating. Jiangqin stood at the same spot with a smile on his face. He had already opened the 2nd spirit vein. I remember putting the 9 carols star in the Qianzuan sect's hidden scriptures pavilion. Why didn't these disciples cultivate there? Jiangqin was puzzled. He thought to himself that the Qianzuan schools seemed to have run into a grave problem while he was away. Back then, Jiangqin had become a god and entered the divine palace. However, before he left the Qianzuan sect, he had arranged everything properly. According to Jiangqin's original plan, the Qianzuan sect might not be able to prosper forever, but it could still be glorious for 3,000 to 5,000 years. It seems that I have to take care of the Qianzuan sect. This was built by me, so I can't just ignore it, Jiangqin muttered. 1. At the same time, another rumbling sound came from Jiangqin's body. A yellow light burst out, and the surrounding heaven and earth yuan-qi seemed to have gone berserk, enveloping Jiangqin. The yuan-qi entered his body and rushed into the 3rd spirit vein. He broke through again. It hasn't even been half an incense stick's time, and he has already opened 3 spirit veins in a row? Ordinary people, even those with outstanding talent, would need a month's time. Less than half an incense stick's time is equivalent to a month of hard work for others. At this moment, exclamations sounded again. However, following that, the surroundings quieted down again. This was because Jiangqin was secretly activating the 9 carols star, and the 9 spirit veins in his body opened one after another. In less than half an incense stick's time, 9 rays of light flashed on Jiangqin's body, and the heaven and earth yuan-qi gathered around him was already like a hurricane. There was simply no one around him who could stand. With a flash of light, a spirit vein opened. After 9 consecutive flashes, Jiang Chun had become a martial arts practitioner in the upper level of the spirit state from a well-known good-for-nothing. Who present could compare to this speed of cultivation? No! Who in the entire godless continent could compare to him? After another half an incense stick's time, when Jiang Chun had finished absorbing all the heaven and earth yuan qi around him and turned it into yuan qi, he slowly opened his mouth. Are you satisfied now? Jiang Chun looked at Lu Qingqin in a sarcastic manner. As for Elder Xian, Jiang Chun ignored him. You will be crowned as the son of Saint. The next leader will be you. Lu Qingqin was very decisive and announced on the spot. When everyone heard this, they were stunned for a moment. They did not expect Lu Qingqin to be so decisive. After regaining their senses, other than Lu Qingqin and the 3 elders, the other disciples and ordinary elders all bowed their heads and bowed to Jiang Chun. They even shouted, Greetings to the son of Saint. One day he was trash, the next he was the son of Saint. He was like a grass that had turned into a flower. He was like a carp that had turned into a dragon. However, what happened next was something that everyone found hard to believe. Jiang Chun shook his head and stared at Lu Qingqin. His gaze darkened slightly as he said, The Qianzuan sect is declining more and more. This has an inseparable relationship with the leader. In my opinion, there's no need to confer me the title of Son of Saint. You can just give me the position of leader. As soon as these words came out, the entire place fell silent again. Being conferred the title of Son of Saint was the dream of all the disciples of the Qianzuan sect. Many people coveted the position of Son of Saint, and even dreamed about it. However, who would have thought that Jiang Chun was actually dissatisfied with the position of Son of Saint? He wanted to become the leader in one leap. At this moment, Lu Qingqin's expression turned ugly. Lu Qingqin felt that he had already given in and agreed to let Jiang Chun be the next leader. However, how could Jiang Chun not know that Lu Qingqin was still unwilling to give up the position of leader? He still wanted to be the leader of Qianzuan sect for a few more years. Therefore, Jiang Chun could not give up the position of leader. Young man, don't be arrogant. Cultivation should be done one step at a time. Lu Qingqin warned. Cultivate well. The position of leader of Qianzuan sect will be yours sooner or later. Since it's going to be mine sooner or later, I want it now. Jiang Chen's attitude was very firm. There was even a trace of coldness in his tone. If Qianzuan sect continues to be under your control, I'm afraid that it will really be destroyed. What? How dare you say that to the leader? How dare you? Chapter 5. The elders around him rebuked angrily. Even Lu Qingqin's expression darkened. 3,000 years ago, Qianzuan sect was the #1 sect of the godless continent. But now, the Qianzuan sect is only a 9th-class sect of the lowest level. Is this true? Jiang Chun said in a cold voice. 3,000 years ago, Qianzuan sect's first 10 sect leaders were all peerless powerhouses, indomitable almighties. Now look at you. You haven't even stepped into the Tao realm and you still have the cheek to continue being the sect master? 3,000 years ago, Qianzuan sect was proficient in weapon refinement, elixir refinement, array formations and talismans. Now why don't you tell me what skills you are proficient in, and what skills have been lost? Against Jiang Chen's repeated questions, Lu Qingqin's expression was already as dark as black water. He was infuriated. However, he could not refute it. After all, the sect masters of Qianzuan sect were truly getting worse with each generation. As its name implied, Qianzuan sect was proficient in martial Tao, weapon refinement, elixir refinement, array formations, talismans and anything related to cultivation. But now, the so-called Qianzuan was no longer complete. It could be said that a long time ago, Qianzuan sect existed in name only. Looking at the sect that he established single-handedly back then reduced to such a state, Jiang Chun was naturally angry. All right. Since you want to be the sect master, I'll give you a chance. After more than 10 breaths, Lu Qingchen's expression darkened. If your cultivation can catch up to mine in a year's time, I'll pass the position of sect master to you. A year? Jiang Chen's eyes were cold as he raised his chin slightly with a proud expression. How much do you look down on me? If I don't enter the Dao realm in 3 months, you can punish me however you want. What? Are you crazy? Right now, we're cultivating the martial Dao. After the martial Dao origin realm, we can cultivate the Dao and enter the Dao realm. Do you know how difficult it is? The elders said in deep voices while Lu Qingchen stared at Jiang Chen silently. A few breaths later, Lu Qingchen waved his sleeve and said, I'm a man of my word. The 9 cauldrons are not worth a single word from me. Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed as he turned and left. Naturally, Lu Qingchen didn't believe that he could enter the Dao realm in 3 months. That was why he agreed. However, when he saw the direction in which Jiang Chen had left, Lu Qingchen's face fell and his face darkened. After Jiang Chen left the square, he walked straight into the inner courtyard. With Lu Qingchen's cultivation, he could see as far as 3,000 meters away. Under his gaze, Jiang Chen entered the inner courtyard, not pausing for a moment. He proceeded in a straight line until he reached the sect lord's grand hall. Lu Qingchen opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. As a saint, he could also enter the sect leader's great hall. However, what he saw now was that after Jiang Chen entered the sect master's hall, he unexpectedly sat on the sect master's throne. As the Holy Son, it was only natural for him to enter the sect leader's hall. However, he couldn't sit on the grand throne. At that moment, Lu Qingchen's face was dark, and his heart was burning with anger. No matter how useless he was still the sect lord of Qianzuan's sect. When had he ever suffered such humiliation in his own sect? In the eyes of Lu Qingchen and everyone else, Jiang Chen's behavior was undoubtedly a rebellion. Forget it. I'll give you 3 months, Lu Qingchen said coldly. As long as Jiang Chen hadn't stepped into the Dao realm after 3 months, Lu Qingchen could immediately strip Jiang Chen of his title as a saint, let alone the next sect lord. A bunch of prodigals. They've ruined the Qianzuan sect that I established. Fortunately, the sect lord's great hall isn't completely ruined. At that moment, Jiang Chen sat on the sect lord's great hall's throne and gently pressed his palm on a gem on the throne. In an instant, a spirit-gathering array was activated under the throne. The surrounding heaven and earth essence Qi gathered like a storm. This throne was personally created by Jiang Chen back then. Not only could it nurture the mind, but it could also allow one to comprehend the Tao. Especially the array formation under the throne, it was a top-notch spirit-gathering array. Cultivating here for a day was equivalent to cultivating outside for 10 days. The 9 Carol's heavenly star revolved, and Jiang Chen began to cultivate. In the spirit realm, opening 9 spirit meridians was considered the peak. Next, one could break through to the second realm of the martial Tao, body realm. However, Jiang Chen did not choose to break through. Instead, he continued to revolve the 9 Carol's heavenly star. Although the 9 Carol's heavenly star cultivation technique was the lowest level cultivation technique, there was a reason for it. Ordinary cultivators could open 9 spirit meridians when they were in the spirit realm. However, the 9 Carol's heavenly star could open 36 spirit meridians. After cultivating to the Mahayana stage, one could condense the 36 spirit meridians and turn them into heavenly stars. As long as the heavenly stars were not destroyed, the true Qi in the body would be inexhaustible. However, after opening 9 spirit meridians, it was too difficult to open the remaining 27 spirit meridians. Each spirit meridian was harder than the last. Since ancient times, only Jiang Chen had cultivated the 9 Carol's heavenly star and successfully opened 36 spirit meridians. The others all failed without exception. It was precisely because the 9 Carol's heavenly star was too difficult to cultivate that in the end, no one cultivated this cultivation technique. Its level naturally dropped again and again until it fell to the lowest level of cultivation technique. Condense! Half a day later, Jiang Chen's eyes focused and he shouted softly. the heaven and earth essence chi in the surroundings seemed to be about to go berserk, as whistling sounds echoed continuously. The heaven and earth essence chi entered his body and was instantly turned into true chi. The true chi flowed in reverse, and wherever it passed, a sparkling spirit meridian appeared. The 10th! Jiang Chun whispered and closed his eyes to continue cultivating. A day later, without anyone disturbing him, Jiang Chun had already opened his 13th spirit meridian. But at this moment, Lu Qingchen entered the main hall. You! Can you make a move? Lu Qingchen frowned and seemed to be in a difficult position. His face was also very ugly. Make a move? Make a move on who? Jiang Chun asked. Before Lu Qingchen entered the main hall, he had already sensed it. However, what made Jiang Chun puzzled was, did this Qianzuan sect need him to make a move? The disciples of the magnificent martial sect are here to visit the mountain. Lu Qingchen's expression was ugly, and he looked like he wanted to say something but stopped. Moreover, there was a trace of embarrassment, shame, and anger on his face. Oh! When Jiang Chun heard that, he immediately guessed what was going on. Since they were here to visit the mountain, simply put, they were here to fight. According to the current situation of the Qianzuan sect, it was estimated that their disciples could not beat the disciples of the magnificent martial sect. The original number 1 sect has actually fallen to such a state. Jiang Chun smiled bitterly in his heart, but he had already stood up and said softly, "Lead the way." Chapter 6. He's a low-level body cultivator. Are you confident? Along the way, Lu Qingchen looked worried. You're the holy son of our Qianzuan sect. If you lose, we'll really lose all face. Hey, as if we still have any face left. Jiang Chun curled his lips. Don't mess around. Dignity is earned through fighting. What if you can't beat him? Lu Qingchen asked. Jiang Chun rolled his eyes. He really didn't feel like explaining to her. He had opened 13 spirit veins and the true chi in his body was incomparably abundant. It was even more abundant than a low-level body cultivator. Under such circumstances, Jiang Chun wouldn't even frown if a practitioner in the middle level of the individual state came, let alone a practitioner in the low level of the body state. In fact, Jiang Chun couldn't even find a reason to lose. Lost again? Sigh, even the strongest inner disciple of our Qianzuan sect, Lin Feng, lost. More than 10 breaths later, when Jiang Chun arrived at the outer courtyard square, he heard many sighs. There were even disciples of the Qianzuan sect who directly said that they wanted to leave the sect. Not only are we being slapped in the face, but even our own disciples are slapping our own faces. Jiang Chun was speechless. How could the Qianzuan sect fall to such a state? It was one thing to be bullied by others, but even their own disciples were looking down on their own sect. If this went on, the Qianzuan sect would really be gone. Our Shenwu sect has already applied to the martial pavilion. It won't be long before we become an 8th-rate sect. We'll be a level higher than a 9th-rate sect like your Qianzuan sect. The Qianzuan sect has already declined. I think it won't be long before it disbands. On the other side of the square, a few youths in white robes were standing there with arrogant expressions. Beside them was a white-haired old man with hawk-like eyes. When he looked at the disciples and elders of the Qianzuan sect, his eyes flickered with contempt. This person was the first elder of the Shenwu sect, Mu Fengwu. He was at the upper level of the origin realm and was even stronger than Lu Qingchen, the sect master. All of you, come at me together. Suddenly, a light voice drifted over. Instantly, the entire place fell silent as all eyes fell upon Jiang Chun. As for Jiang Chun, he had a smile on his face as he slowly walked to the center of the square. You don't understand me? Disciples of the magnificent martial sect, come together. Jiang Chun said. Don't waste my time. Where did this brat come from? He's merely in the upper level of the spirit realm. Where did he get his confidence from? Too much steel is easy to break. Too much is easy to pass. At this moment, the disciples of the magnificent martial sect were furious. They had already defeated the strongest disciple of the Xingwu sect, Lin Feng. Now, a small cultivator at the upper level of the spirit realm had appeared out of nowhere with such an arrogant attitude. It was simply intolerable. Humph! I can crush you to death with just one finger! A slightly tall youth from the Xingwu sect roared and immediately rushed out. His speed was very fast, and his body was surrounded by true qi. On the surface of his body, there was a layer of blood qi flowing. This was the manifestation of stepping into the physique realm. One finger? Is that so? Jiangchen laughed softly and stood in place, not moving an inch. His posture was tall and straight, like a vigorous ancient tree. When his eyes opened and closed, there was a ray of light like the stars flowing in the depths of his eyes. Steel shattering hand! Accompanied by a roar, the youth from the magnificent martial sect charged in front of Jiangchen. He struck out with a palm, true qi flowing in his palm and a silver light flashing. Where the palm passed, strong winds howled. Jiangchen seemed to be lost in thought as he stood in place, not moving an inch. Even when the palm landed on his body, Jiangchen didn't move an inch. This scene puzzled the crowd. This is what you mean by crushing me to death with one finger? All of a sudden, Jiangchen lowered his head and glanced at the palm on his chest. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, showing a disdainful smile. What? The magnificent martial sect disciple stared at Jiangchen in disbelief. After taking the steel-shattering hand head-on, Jiangchen seemed to be unharmed. No way! Steel-shattering hand, a low-grade yellow-rank martial skill. One palm can shatter gold and stone. This kid... How is he unharmed? Exclamations sounded one after another. Even Lu Qingchen and the other elders looked askance at the scene. Bang! Before the crowd quieted down, a muffled sound was heard. In an instant, the magnificent martial sect disciple flew out like a kite with a broken string. Blood dripped along the way, and his face became even paler. Plop! After 2 breaths, the magnificent martial sect disciple fell to the ground. His face was pale and there was no qi to speak of. He had already fainted. This is the magnificent martial sect disciple? He can't even withstand a single blow. Jiangchen whispered with a bored expression. He frowned slightly and said, The rest of you, come at me together. I don't have time to play with you. What happened just now? Jiangchen didn't do anything, and the magnificent martial sect disciple was sent flying? The crowd exclaimed. Even Lu Qingchen and the others were puzzled. Jiangchen clearly stood there without moving. He didn't counterattack, nor did he defend. But why did this happen? I've opened 13 spiritual veins. Even an all-out attack from a middle-level physique realm cultivator wouldn't be able to break through my qi shield. Jiangchen thought to himself. He touched his chin and wondered if he could compete with someone in the upper-level physique realm with his current strength. Since you asked for it, we'll fulfill your wish. You're too arrogant. Aren't you afraid of dying prematurely? At the same time, the remaining magnificent martial sect disciples roared and rushed toward Jiangchen. Arrogant? Dying prematurely? Jiangchen raised his eyebrows and said, If I'm arrogant, the sky will dim. As for dying prematurely? Do you have the strength to do so? You're courting death. Today I'll cripple you. Boom! Jiangchen's words undoubtedly angered the magnificent martial sect disciples. Immediately, after a few angry roars, the magnificent martial sect disciples' bodies were filled with true qi. They rushed forward like a pack of fierce wolves. In this regard, Jiangchen was very calm. He didn't even look at them. Just like before, Jiangchen still stood quietly in the same place. The wind blew past, but only his hair was fluttering. Palm prints and fist lights rushed over, but only his clothes fluttered. Boom! After 3 breaths, when everyone's attacks landed on Jiangchen, a series of explosions sounded out. However, to everyone's surprise, Jiangchen's body was like a rock that wouldn't change for thousands of years. He was still standing where he was, and he didn't move an inch at all. Only his hair danced with the wind. Only his clothes fluttered with true qi. You didn't eat? Chapter 7. Jiang Chen lifted his head, his eyelids drooping slightly as he spoke softly. His eyes were filled with contempt and arrogance. After activating 13 spirit veins, Jiang Chen's true qi was as abundant as a river. Their attacks seemed fierce, but in reality, they couldn't even break through Jiang Chen's protective true qi. Bang! Bang! In the next moment, before the disciples could react, the 13 spirit veins in Jiang Chen's body went berserk, his true qi gushing out like a flood. Sparkling genuine qi burst out from his body like gusts of strong wind. Like the previous one, these magnificent martial sect disciples flew out like a kite with a broken string. After landing on the ground, these people all fainted as expected. Qianzuan sect? How dare you commit murder in front of me? Mu Fengwu stood out, his face so ugly that it seemed to be dripping with black water. The disciples brought by the Shenwu sect had all been annihilated, and their injuries were extremely severe. They'd come to pay a visit, but had returned in defeat. How could Mu Fengwu let this go? What? The young one can't beat them, so the old one came to help? Jiang Chen stared at Mu Fengwu, but his heart was a little weak. After all, he'd just been reborn, and his cultivation was only at the upper level of the spirit realm. Mu Fengwu was the Shenwu sect's first elder, and his cultivation was at the upper level of the origin realm. His cultivation was even higher than Lu Qingchen's. If they were to fight, Jiang Chen really didn't have much chance of winning. But that didn't mean he would lose. This was the Qianzuan sect. This was Jiang Chen's home ground. This was where his foundation lay. If he lost here, he wouldn't be able to venture out into the world. I'm here today on behalf of the Shenwu sect. First, to pay a visit and test the strength of the Qianzuan sect disciples. Second, Mu Fengwu's eyes narrowed, and he paused, then lifted his chin and said arrogantly, Second, I'm here on the orders of the Shenwu sect's sect leader to ask if the Qianzuan sect is willing to submit to us. What? He's here to ask for surrender? It's over. Even a Grand Elder's cultivation base is higher than our sect leaders. How can we fight back? Is the Qianzuan sect going to be annexed by the magnificent martial sect today? At that moment, everyone in the Qianzuan sect began to panic. Even Lu Qingchen's heart began to clench. He couldn't even defeat Mu Fengwu. With such a huge gap in strength, how could he refuse? What did rejection mean? That would lead to the extermination of the entire sect. At that time, everyone in the Qianzuan sect would be killed. Why are you shaking? Jiang Chen glanced at Lu Qingchen. Seeing the latter's slightly trembling body, he couldn't help but feel embarrassed. How could the dignified Qianzuan sect leader become like this? Ha ha ha, Qianzuan hierarch, don't be afraid. As long as you agree, Shenwu sect and Qianzuan sect will be one family. You can come to my Shenwu sect and become an elder. Mu Fengwu said with a smile. Looking at Lu Qingchen's trembling body, Mu Fengwu suddenly felt that he had regained his dignity. There was a hint of pride in his laughter. If I don't agree, the Qianzuan sect will be exterminated. Lu Qingchen sighed and looked at the many elders around him as if he was asking for their opinion. However, before the higher-ups of the Qianzuan sect could discuss it, Jiang Chen stepped forward and stood in front of Mu Fengwu. He waved at Lu Qingchen and the others and said, There's nothing for you to do here. There's nothing for you to do here? What did he mean? One should know that the current Qianzuan sect leader was still Lu Qingchen. Although Jiang Chen was the saint, he couldn't take charge of the overall situation. Moreover, this was a matter of life and death for the Qianzuan sect. Nonsense. Hurry up and leave. Lu Qingchen shouted angrily. His face darkened and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. Ever since Jiang Chen had awakened and given the deity's decree, Lu Qingchen felt that he had lost his power and dignity as the sect leader. Especially in front of Jiang Chen, he was like a speck of dust. Even though you are the Qianzuan school's leader, you were scared by an elder. What's the point of having a leader like you? Jiang Chen spoke in a cold voice. His eyelids drooped slightly, while he slowly raised his arm. You have 10 breaths of time to get the hell out of the Qianzuan sect with those of the magnificent martial sect. Otherwise, All of you will stay here. Jiangchen focused his gaze on Mu Fengwu. And Mu Fengwu naturally wouldn't waste his breath on Jiangchen. After all, an upper-level spirit realm cultivator was indeed an ant in his eyes. Moreover, after Mu Fengwu finished speaking, he raised his palm and pushed it horizontally. Even if he didn't use his full strength, Jiangchen wouldn't be able to withstand a palm strike from an upper-level origin realm cultivator. Even Lu Qingchen wouldn't be able to block it. However, this was Jiangchen's home ground. Take him down. Jiangchen glared but didn't move. 9 beams of light flashed from within the 9-stack sect at his furious roar. Jiangchen shouted angrily, and the remnant thoughts of his divine soul that were still in the 9 layers door shot out like sharp swords. Sword light flashed and the will of the gods erupted. Divine light flashed, blinding everyone's eyes. Nothing could be seen clearly, but a few muffled sounds rang in their ears, as if something had been pierced through. After 3 breaths of time, the light dissipated and the divine light vanished. It was only now that everyone could see everything clearly. What? The magnificent martial sect's first elder is dead? We're in trouble. The magnificent martial sect's first elder has died in the Qianzuan sect. The entire Qianzuan sect was in an uproar. Cries of alarm filled the air, and many were so frightened that they fell to the ground, paralyzed. How is this possible? Lu Qingchen's eyes widened as he stared at Mu Fengwu, who was still standing in place. There wasn't a trace of injury on his body, but there was no sign of life. He maintained his previous posture, and his palm was only 3 inches away from Jiangchen. However, this 3 inches distance was like a chasm that could never be crossed. Time seemed to have stopped in the previous second. You still want to kill me in my home ground? Jiangchen curled his lips and said. If it was somewhere else, Jiangchen naturally wouldn't be able to kill Mu Fengwu, who was at the upper level of the primordial realm. However, it was different in the Qianzuan sect. Although the statues within the 9-stack sect had all collapsed, the remnant consciousness of the gods wouldn't disappear so quickly and would last for a while. During this period, Jiangchen was a god in the Qianzuan sect. He didn't need to do it himself. The remnant consciousness of his disciples could kill everything for him. Chapter 8. I wanted to give you a chance, but now it seems that you're not qualified to be the sect leader, Jiangchen said softly and turned to walk toward the sect leader's hall. When he passed by Lu Qingchen, Jiangchen did not even look at him. However, everyone knew that Jiangchen was talking to Lu Qingchen. I'm not qualified. Do you have it? Lu Qingchen said coldly. The genuine qi in his body surged, and he looked like he was going to attack. However, Jiangchen didn't even look back. He just walked away. Then, he said lightly, if you dare to move, you'll end up like Mu Fengwu. You! Lu Qingchen opened his mouth, but only one word came out. He did not dare to say another word. A divine light that was as sharp as a sword flashed past, and Mu Fengwu was killed. Lu Qingchen's cultivation was not as high as Mu Fengwu's, so he did not dare to cross the line. Go to the martial pavilion and tell them that the Qianzuan sect has a new sect leader. After walking into the hall, something occurred to Jiangchen. He couldn't help but remind the guards outside the hall. By the way, go to the treasure house and bring me some spiritual stones. The guards outside the hall did not know what had happened in the outer yard square. They guarded the hall and only listened to the sect leader. Therefore, they did not know that the sect leader had been replaced by Jiangchen. Naturally, they did not care about Jiangchen's words at all. All right, I'll go myself. Jiangchen was speechless, but he did not blame the 2 guards. Besides, Jiangchen also wanted to see how badly the Qianzuan sect had been defeated after 3,000 years. There should be some treasures left in the treasure pavilion, shouldn't there? However, when Jiangchen entered the treasure pavilion and saw the empty treasury, his face fell. The treasury, which was as big as a football field, was once filled with all kinds of treasures. There were supreme spiritual stones, various weapons, rare treasures, and even elixirs. Now, there was not even a weed in the treasury. In 3,000 years, everything in the treasury has been squandered away? Not even a single spirit stone is left? Jiang Chen was dumbfounded. This group of disciples and grand disciples did not know how to cultivate. They only knew how to squander. Now, he didn't even have any spirit stones or medicinal pills. How could he increase his cultivation quickly? After all, after opening the 13th spirit meridian, it would take at least a month to open the 14th spirit meridian. Jiang Chen originally planned to come to the treasury to look for some medicinal pills and rare treasures. At the very least, he would be able to find some spirit stones and go out to buy some medicinal pills. But now, he was poor. I am the dignified God King Tianchen, how can I be so poor? Jiang Chen touched his pockets. There was not a single spirit stone inside. Fortunately, Jiang Chen did not mind. With his means, so what if he was poor? Can I buy things just because I'm poor? Let's go to the alchemy pavilion, Jiang Chen whispered. Then, he walked out of the treasure pavilion. The alchemy pavilion, like the martial pavilion, was spread throughout the entire godless continent. The closest alchemy pavilion to the Qianzuan sect was in Qingyun town, which was 30 miles away. Before going to Qingyun town, Jiang Chen first gathered everyone in the Qianzuan sect, announced him as the sect master, and had someone report it to the martial pavilion. The martial pavilion was in charge of all the sects in the godless continent. Within the sect, if something major happened, such as promotion or changing the sect master, they would need to inform the martial pavilion. After doing all this, Jiang Chen rode a mule and set off from the Qianzuan sect. Cultivators, at the very least, ride on spirit horses. My mule is not suitable, right? Jiang Chen's face was dark. In the Qianzuan sect stables, he only found this mule. In the entire Qianzuan sect, there was only one mount. Looking at the mule with mottled fur and walking weakly, Jiang Chen's heart was so angry that his old face turned red. And the distance of 30 miles could be covered by a spirit horse in an incense stick's time. As a result, this mule was too disappointing. It carried Jiang Chen and walked for a full day. It was not until 10 in the evening that they arrived at Qingyun town. Qingyun town was the only small town in the area of Beige City. Although the town was small, it had all the essentials. Even the martial pavilion was built here. To the south of Qingyun town was the Sunset Forest. There were many beasts in it. Demon hunters often appeared, and the beasts they hunted were traded in Qingyun town. To the east there was the official road, which led straight to Beige City thousands of miles away. Nantung East Road had to pass through Qingyun town, so this Qingyun town could be said to be lively and prosperous. At this moment, Jiang Chen was riding a mule, but he was blocked at the gate of Qingyun town. Here, there were guards on duty. Anyone who entered the town would be interrogated for details. Why don't you stop them? Why stop me? Jiang Chen's face was a little ugly. There were many pedestrians passing by, but these two guards stopped him. The rest of the people were never questioned. Riding a mule, you, who are you? One of the guards asked, his eyes flashing with ridicule. After all, this was the world of cultivators. Only mortals would ride a mule. And in Qingyun town, the people who entered and left were all cultivators. Mortals were not allowed to enter. What's wrong with me riding a mule? Jiang Chen's face darkened. The problem was really with this mount. He looked to the side a few times. It was true that the worst people who entered the town were riding spirit horses. Some of them rode on demonic beasts. This mule was really embarrassing. Report your name, the guard said in a deep voice. If you are not a cultivator, you are not allowed to enter Qingyun town. Jiang Chen, the sect master of Qianzuan sect. Jiang Chen didn't want to cause trouble. After all, he came to Qingyun town this time to buy medicinal pills. However, as soon as these words were spoken, the people passing by all around gave him a supercilious look. In addition to contempt, there was more ridicule in their eyes. Even these two guards raised their eyebrows and joked. It turned out to be the sect master of Qianzuan sect, the #1 sect of godless continent. It's an honor to meet you. Once upon a time, How glorious was Qianzuan's sect? Now, it's not bad, at least it's still a ninth-rate sect. Another guard joked. Jiangchen frowned slightly when he heard the words. He curled his lips and didn't want to say anything more. Once the number one sect of Godless Continent, now reduced to a ninth-rate sect, this was a fact. What can Jiangchen do if others said it? Oh, is there no one else in Qianzuan's sect? Let a brat be the sect master. I heard that Shenwu sect wants to annex Qianzuan's sect. It is estimated that there will be action in a few days. All around, there were a lot of discussions. When the three words Qianzuan's sect were mentioned, they were all contemptuous and ridiculing. Have you said enough? If you have said enough, can you let me in? Jiangchen looked indifferent, and was also very open-minded. Chapter 9. So what if it was a ninth-rate sect? Now that he had returned, Qianzuan's sect would regain all its former glory sooner or later. Welcome to the leader of the ninth-rate sect, Qianzuan's sect. Welcome, welcome! Ha ha! The two guards were very exaggerated and their voices were also very loud. Especially when they mentioned the words, leader of Qianzuan's sect. They couldn't help but laugh out loud. Around them, there were also many people watching the fun. The sound of ridicule was endless. Oh, thank you? Jiangchen chuckled. He didn't care and stepped into Qingyun town. After all, in the eyes of the Divine King, what use was there for the words and deeds of these people in front of him? It was just a passing cloud. Standing above the clouds, at the top of the 9 heavens, overlooking all living things in the world, they were all ants. In Qingyun town, there was only one avenue, which entered from the north gate and went straight to the south gate. On both sides of the avenue, there were various stalls, shops, and trading companies. The Martial Pavilion and the Elixir Pavilion were both established here. This is the Elixir Pavilion's branch in Qingyun town? I wonder if there's anything I want. At this moment, Jiangchen stood outside the Elixir Pavilion's branch in Qingyun town. Looking at the slightly dilapidated pavilion in front of him, he was vaguely worried. Jiangchen wanted to open the remaining spirit meridians, and needed some special herbs. He planned to refine the elixir himself. And these herbs were rare. Now looking at this dilapidated pavilion, Jiangchen felt that this trip might be in vain. Is there blood spirit grass? After entering the Elixir Pavilion, Jiangchen went straight to the point. He found the Elixir Pavilion's general manager and asked about a few herbs. Among them, the most important was the blood spirit grass. Blood spirit grass? This thing is out of stock. The general manager of the Elixir Pavilion was a middle-aged man with a potbelly. His face was oily, and no matter who he was facing, he had a smile on his face. Sure enough, it's impossible for such a dilapidated Elixir Pavilion branch to have the blood spirit grass. Jiangchen sighed. The blood spirit grass condensed the essence of heaven and earth, and was born by absorbing the blood essence of the earth. It was not commonly seen at all. General Manager Su, do you have the blood spirit grass? At this moment 3 youths walked in from outside the door, 2 boys and 1 girl. The woman was about 17 or 18 years old. Of the 2 men, one was short and average-looking, while the other was tall and slender and slightly handsome. The one who spoke was the handsome young man. This person was the junior sect master of the magnificent martial sect, Xing Linyun. Young Master Xing, there is still one more blood spirit grass. If you want it, I have it. General Manager Su smiled. He walked past Jiangchen and arrived in front of the 3 people. All right then. You can name the price. My sister Shuer is in urgent need of blood spirit grass. Xing Linyun nodded slightly, looking very generous. However, Jiangchen, who was standing at the side, was not so generous at this moment. First come, first served, Jiangchen said in a low voice. I'll go first. I want the blood spirit grass. Why do you say you don't have it? This little brother, you don't mess around. The blood spirit grass is expensive, you. General Manager Su smiled. However, the disdain in the depths of his eyes was difficult to hide. When Jiangchen heard this, he couldn't help being stunned. He then lowered his head to look at his clothes. His cotton clothes were already yellowed and had a few holes. His shoes were stained with mud and half of his toes were exposed. Compared to Xing Linian's brocade clothes, this was a far cry. Furthermore, others knew that Xing Linian was the junior sect master of the magnificent martial sect. However, Jiang Qin was a nobody. Even if he revealed his name and identity, the Qianzuan sect was only a ninth-rate sect. How could they compare to the eighth-rate sect, the magnificent martial sect? As the saying went, a higher rate could crush a sect. But under normal circumstances, Jiang Qin couldn't be bothered to fight for the blood spirit grass. However, after his rebirth, Jiang Qin urgently needed to increase his strength. He couldn't give up on the blood spirit grass. This little brother, I am the junior sect master of the magnificent martial sect, Xing Linian. I want this blood spirit grass. Xing Linian squinted his eyes and the corner of his lips rose slightly with a trace of contempt. As he spoke, he took out a mid-grade spiritual stone and threw it at Jiang Qin's feet. This mid-grade spiritual stone is a gift from me. Don't fight for the blood spirit grass, Xing Linian said softly. Moreover, you don't have the qualifications to fight with me. If Xing Linian's words were in the past, Jiang Qin would have slapped him. But now, Jiang Qin was at his wits' end. After all, Jiang Qin didn't even have a single spiritual stone on him now. Spiritual stones were hard currency. Without spiritual stones, even if the elixir pavilion was willing to sell the blood spirit grass to him, Jiang Qin didn't have the money to buy it. I seem to be very poor. Jiang Qin smiled bitterly in his heart. He had just been reborn and he was already being bullied. This is unacceptable, right? General Manager Su, I don't have any spiritual stones on me, but I can use other things to exchange for it. Is that okay? Jiang Qin asked as he took a step forward and stepped on the mid-grade spiritual stone. Seeing this, Xing Linian's eyes couldn't help but narrow. This was because a mid-grade spiritual stone was equivalent to 100 low-grade spiritual stones. Even if Xing Linian was the young lord of the magnificent martial sect, he wouldn't waste money like this. It's okay to use other things to exchange for it, but what do you plan to exchange for it? General Manager Su squinted his eyes and asked. He didn't believe it. After all, what good things could a person wearing such tattered clothes take out? But he had to ask anyway. As the general manager of the Elixir Pavilion, his only goal was to earn more for the Elixir Pavilion. The Elixir Pavilion is based on elixirs. Naturally, I'll use elixirs to exchange for it, Jiang Qin said softly. How about a blood recovery elixir? What? Blood recovery elixir? General Manager Su exclaimed. Then, his face darkened with a trace of anger. Kid, don't mess around. The blood recovery elixir has been lost for a long time. How can someone like you have the blood recovery elixir? How can a poor country bumpkin have the blood recovery elixir? That's something that has been lost for 1,000 years. Back then, it was created by Tian Qin Divine King before he became a god, Xing Linian said contemptuously. Get lost. Don't embarrass yourself here. You shameless thing. Senior brother, don't lower yourself to the same level as this person. We are also people with status. Besides Xing Linian, the short boy flattered. He looked at Jiang Qin and pointed outside the door. He angrily rebuked. Didn't you hear what senior brother said? Get lost. Call your alchemist over. I'll write down the elixir formula. Whether it's real or fake, you'll know at once, Jiang Qin said softly, completely ignoring Xing Linian and the other two. Among the three people, the one with the highest cultivation was Xing Linian, but he was only at the middle level of the physique realm. This kind of cultivation, to put it bluntly, couldn't even break through Jiang Qin's qi shield. It was commonly known as a defenseless player. Why would Jiang Qin care about people who pose no threat to him? Alright, I'll believe you for now. If you're lying to me, it won't be easy to walk out of the Elixir Pavilion's door, General Manager Su said in a deep voice. Then, about 10 breaths later, an alchemist walked out from the back of the hall. Chapter 10. At the same time, Jiang Chun had already obtained the brush, paper, and inkstone. In less than 10 breaths, he wrote down the formula for the blood recovery elixir. Take a look yourself. If you don't believe me, you can refine the elixir according to the formula. Jiang Chun handed the formula to the alchemist and sat on the chair in the living room, closing his eyes to rest. General Manager Su, I think this person is scamming us. I'll buy the blood spiritual grass with 1 high spiritual stone. I want it now, Xing Linyan said as she took out a spiritual stone that was flickering with a fluorescent light. Young Lord Xing, please wait for a moment. We'll know the truth when the alchemist is done. General Manager Su smiled. We still have to follow the rules. I hope young Lord Xing can forgive us. It's fine. I'll accompany this clown to the end. Let's see how he clears up the mess. Xing Linyan smiled confidently. However, behind him, the woman called Shui walked up to Jiang Chun. Her appearance couldn't be considered peerless, but it was still pretty. However, the coldness and disdain between his eyebrows pissed Jiang Chun off. I'm taking the blood spiritual herb. If you have any requests, just say it. Don't waste my time. Shui stared at Jiang Chun coldly. Who do you think you are? Jiang Chun's eyelids twitched. He seemed to be half awake, but there was a trace of anger in his voice. He didn't want to bicker with Xing Linyan and the others, but they just had to provoke him. Enduring once was Jiang Chun's pride. Enduring twice was Jiang Chun's good temper. Enduring thrice? Oh, sorry, there's no third time. What did you say? Do you know who we are? Shui sneered. Look at your attire. Which sect are you from? Do you know that the 3 of us are from the magnificent martial sect? So what if I know? I was the one who took the life of the magnificent martial sect's grand elder, Mu Fengwu. Jiang Chun curled his lips and waved his hand. Let's go. I don't hit women, but I can make an exception for you. You really don't know what's good for you, Shui said coldly. My sect's first elder, Mu Fengwu, is at the upper level of the origin realm. You should only be at the spirit realm, yes? Xing Linyan said. The wind isn't that strong, so you don't have to worry about biting your tongue. If you... Jiang Chun's eyes narrowed, but before he could finish, his heart skipped a beat. This was because Jiang Chun suddenly felt a wave of coldness in the Pill Pavilion's living room. This is the power of Yin, Jiang Chun thought to himself. As he looked over, he saw an old man and a young man walking out of the back hall of the Pill Pavilion. 3 breaths of time later, when the 2 of them passed by Jiang Chun said softly, with a body of extreme Yin, if you don't dissolve the poison, you will die within 10 days. Jiang Chun's voice was very soft, but it happened to be heard by these 2 people. In an instant, the 2 of them stopped, and the old man slowly turned around. Under the cloak, there was a hint of doubt and surprise on his ancient face. His eyes sparkled as he stared at Jiang Chun, as if he wanted to see through Jiang Chun. Why do you say that, little brother? The old man asked. Because I know how to dissolve the Yin. Jiang Chun suddenly smiled. After a body of extreme Yin transforms into Yin, it can become a sacred body of extreme Yin. Let's have a chat in the back hall. The old man suddenly calmed down, but the trace of excitement in the depths of his eyes couldn't escape Jiang Chun's eyes. But at this moment, a surge of true qi rushed over like a strong gale, heading straight for Jiang Chun's face. The one who'd made the move was Shui. Scram! The cloaked old man roared angrily before Jiang Chun could make a move. He didn't move at all, but with a roar, the surge of true qi shattered and disappeared into nothingness. Moreover, there seemed to be sound waves in the roar, and Shui was sent flying. With a bang, she landed at the entrance of the elixir pavilion. Old man, do you want to die? Xing Linyan immediately rushed out, her true qi surging, ready to attack. Young Lord Xing, don't be rash. Seeing this, General Manager Su hurriedly rushed over and pulled Xing Linyan to the side. His eyes were filled with fear. It seemed that General Manager Su couldn't afford to offend this old man and young girl. Sang Mountain Snow Sea. The old man said softly without turning his head, After saying these 4 words, he made a please gesture to Jiangchen. Jiangchen was very calm. He stood up slowly and entered the back of the hall with the old man and young girl. There were many elegant rooms in the back of the hall. Jiangchen entered the heavenly room with the old man and young girl. Young man, how did you know about the extreme body? The old man was very straightforward and asked the young girl beside him to take off her hood. The moment the hood fell, a beautiful and flawless face was revealed in front of Jiangchen. It was as if she was carved by a heavenly craftsman, and her face was unbelievably beautiful. However, Jiangchen only glanced at her indifferently. Then, he stretched out a finger and said, I have a request. I'll help her transform her body, and she has to stay by my side. Young man, you really like to joke. If you don't tell me how to transform her body, how can I agree to it? The old man smiled, but he was very respectful to Jiangchen. This was because in a small place like Bega City, almost no one knew about the extreme body. Moreover, no one could see through the extreme body at first glance. The old man was not only curious about Jiangchen, but he also had a glimmer of hope for Jiangchen. Just like what Jiangchen said, if the girl did not transform into her body, she would definitely die within 10 days. If you don't agree, how can I tell you? Jiangchen smiled and said, You only have 10 days left. I'll give you 10 days to think about it. If you agree, come to Qianzun sect to find me. After that, Jiangchen stood up and did not continue the conversation. The old man and the young girl looked at Jiangchen's back and frowned. No one knew what they were thinking. Grandpa, he's about the same age as me, and he's dressed like this. How can you believe what he says? The girl said softly with her eyebrows knitted. Her voice was like the sound of nature. So what if I don't? You only have 10 days left. The old man sighed and said, Xiao Yu, you can only trust him now. But let me stay by his side. This? Bai Fingyu muttered. If father finds out, this Qianzun sect will be annihilated. As long as your illness can be cured, I'm willing to pay any price. The old man said softly with a trace of determination in his eyes. At this moment, in the living room, a group of people surrounded Jiangchen. General Manager Su was squeezed out of the crowd. What are you all doing? Jiangchen was dumbfounded. The group of people around him were all alchemists. Chapter 11. What are you doing? Jiangchen was dumbfounded. The group of people around him were all alchemists. In a small place like Qingyun Town, even the lowest level alchemist is superior, and has eyes higher than the sky. But now, this group of alchemists surrounded him, and called him, Master. Master, I have refined the elixir according to your prescription. It is indeed the blood recovery elixir. The alchemist who took the prescription said excitedly. This long-lost elixir prescription may be circulated among the people, but it is controlled by various orthodoxies and families. May I ask? Master's name? I'm just a nobody, Jiangchen said with a smile. Since the prescription of the blood recovery elixir is true, can you give me the blood spirit grass? Of course. Little Su, give the blood spirit grass to this master. Hurry up! What are you waiting for? Don't let the master wait too long. In an instant, a group of alchemists shouted, Little Su. Hearing this, General Manager Su was not angry at all. He did not dare to offend this group of alchemists. After all, if the Elixir Pavilion did not have these alchemists, could it still be called the Elixir Pavilion? Yes, I'll go get it now. General Manager Su nodded hurriedly and left in a hurry. Not long after, General Manager Su ran out from the back hall and handed the blood spirit grass to Jiangchen. General Manager Su! What do you mean? I'll buy this blood spirit grass for 1 upper spirit stone. Xing Linyun shouted angrily as she supported Shuer, her eyes flashing with anger. 1 upper spirit stone? 1? When the group of alchemists heard this, they all looked very strange. One of them said contemptuously, The prescription of the blood recovery elixir can't be bought with 1 upper spirit stone. even with 1,000 upper spirit stones. General Manager Su, did you plan to sell the blood spirit grass for 1 upper spirit stone and give up the prescription of the blood recovery elixir? Vulgar. Don't care about the elixir, only money. Vulgar. Looking at the group of enraged alchemists, General Manager Su wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and nodded his head vigorously. He said, "It's this one's eyes that was blind. I didn't recognize this little brother's character. Why are you standing there? The blood spirit grass was gone. Young Master Xing, please leave." Chief Steward Su's eyes turned cold. When he thought of the old man and the young man from before, his calves trembled. Angering these alchemists who loved pills to the extreme was a small matter. If he angered the old man and the young man, it would be a big problem. At that time, perhaps this Qingyun town would be razed. Stinking brat! I'll remember you. Today's humiliation must be repaid. Xing Linyan's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Feeling humiliated, he glared viciously at Jiang Chen before leaving with Shuer. At this moment, although Jiang Chen had obtained the blood spiritual grass, there was another big problem. Xuanzuan sect. It seems like there isn't even a pill furnace left. Jiang Chen muttered. Xuanzuan sect was now an empty shell. With the blood spirit grass, how could he concoct pills without a cauldron? Can I borrow the pill furnace of the pill pavilion? I want to concoct pills. Jiang Chen blushed. He felt that he was extremely poor. Grandmaster, please! Grandmaster wants to concoct pills personally. Please! Please! A group of alchemists immediately became excited. In their hearts, the person who could take out the long-lost formula of the blood recovery powder was either a disciple of a big family or a descendant of a certain inheritance. Such a person's cultivation might not be good, but his attainments in alchemy were absolutely extraordinary. They wanted to see it for themselves. I haven't concocted pills for a long time. I'm afraid I'm rusty. Please don't be offended. Jiang Chen was very modest, but what he said was the truth. He hadn't concocted pills for 3,000 years. He was really rusty. Not long after, Jiang Chen arrived at the Pill Pavilion's alchemy room. There were pill furnaces placed here, and there were many medicinal herbs on the shelves around. Can you give me some medicinal herbs to go with the blood spirit grass? Jiang Chen blushed again. He couldn't continue being poor like this. The dignified godly King Tianchen was so poor. If the disciples of the continent of the 9 clouds knew, they would laugh their heads off. Grandmaster, the blood recovery powder is priceless. You can choose any medicinal herbs here. Grandmaster, please. The group of alchemists was very polite. After all, Jiang Chen's formula was enough to buy all the medicinal herbs here. What's the harm in letting him choose a few medicinal herbs? As an alchemist, don't you care about your status and dignity? Bowing and nodding in front of a young boy is an insult to the dignity of alchemists. Suddenly, in front of a pill furnace, a white-haired old man stood up. He had a stern face. As he spoke, he walked in front of Jiang Chen. In the godless continent, there were many other professions besides martial cultivation. For example, alchemists, weapon craftsmen, talisman masters, formation masters, etc. Although these special occupations were not necessarily powerful, due to their scarcity, it was extremely difficult to cultivate them. Thus, these people all had their own pride. For example, alchemists. Practically every martial cultivator would use medicinal pellets. Because of that, the status of alchemists would naturally become even more noble. They were also extraordinarily arrogant. At that moment, the old man walked in front of Jiang Chen and looked at him with disdain. The surrounding alchemists kept their mouths shut, not daring to make a sound. It seemed like the old man's status was extraordinary. You're so young, do you know what pills are? Do you know how to concoct pills? The old man stared at Jiang Chen, then looked at the blood spirit grass in Jiang Chen's hand. He said, Such precious medicinal herbs will be wasted in your hands. What does it have to do with you whether I know how to concoct pills or not? Jiang Chen muttered. He didn't want to bother with the old man at all. He turned around and walked to a nearby shelf to choose a few medicinal herbs. The old man stood in place, but his eyes were fixed on Jiangqin. When he saw the herbs Jiangqin had chosen, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes. "You want to concoct a blood spirit pill?" the old man asked with a frown. "You're quite knowledgeable," Jiangqin said softly. This time, he was indeed concocting a blood spirit pill. The blood spirit pill was made with blood spirit grass as the main ingredient and other supplementary medicinal herbs. The effect of one blood spirit pill was enough to allow an ordinary person to open 3 spirit meridians in an instant. "Even I can't concoct a blood spirit pill. You're just a young man. Where does your confidence come from?" the old man said disdainfully. "Who do you think you are? If you can't concoct it, doesn't that mean others can't either?" Jiangqin said. "Dare I ask, what rank are you?" Chapter 12. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the people present changed one after another. Only because this old man was famous in the area of Qingyun town. His name was Tong Sang, and he was the only third-grade alchemist in the area of Qingyun town. As for a third-grade alchemist, his status was probably one of the best in Qingyun town. Even the pavilion master of the martial pavilion and the pavilion master of the martial pavilion were not necessarily on equal footing with Tong Sang. "Master, Senior Tong was a third-grade alchemist 10 years ago," someone whispered from the side. "Oh? Third grade? 10 years ago?" Jiangqin froze for a moment, and was a little surprised. After all, before his rebirth, Jiangqin entered the martial arts at the age of 13, began to cultivate at the age of 14, became an alchemist at the age of 15, and achieved the position of a 9th-grade alchemist at the age of 17. In his eyes, the path of alchemy was not that difficult. However, this Tong Sang in front of him, who looked 70 or 80 years old, was only a third-grade alchemist. Jiangqin really couldn't figure out how a person with such low talent on the path of alchemy had the confidence to cultivate alchemy. "Sorry to disturb you." At this moment, Jiangqin did not want to say more and threw the herbs into the alchemy furnace. This action, in the eyes of the crowd, seemed a little rude. All alchemists knew one thing. When refining pills, one needed to put the herbs into the furnace in an orderly manner according to the prescription. Otherwise, if the medicinal properties of various herbs were not balanced, it would be impossible to refine pills. "Is this a master or a liar? Could it be that we misunderstood?" Around, a group of alchemists were confused and even doubted the identity of Jiangqin. However, they did not know that Jiangqin had never admitted anything. Calling him master was something they had willingly done. "I haven't refined pills for a long time, and I'm a little rusty," Jiangqin whispered, ignoring the voices around him. Immediately, in his palm, true energy gushed out like a flame and enveloped the entire furnace. The flame burned and rotated around the furnace. Occasionally, one could see a flower-like shadow emerging in the flame. "What kind of alchemy technique is this? Never seen it before. How wonderful!" At this moment, the crowd softly exclaimed a few times, but did not say much. After all, no matter how good one's alchemy skills were, if one couldn't refine a pill, it would all be in vain. When refining pills, you need to first warm the furnace and then put in the ingredients. Only then can you start refining pills. Furthermore, you need to control the temperature of the flame. Refining pills like you, I'm afraid. Tong Sang shook his head. However, before he could finish his sentence, the cauldron began to vibrate. Immediately, the cauldron shook and the lid flew off. At the same time, the shadow of a 9th-rank lotus rose from the cauldron. Together with this lotus phantom, there was also a primordial red pill that looked like a blood bodhi. It's done! How long has it been? How could it be so fast? Just now, that was an alchemy phenomenon, right? Flowers blossomed in the furnace. Supreme grade pill! At this moment, everyone exclaimed endlessly with shock, and even Tong Sang was unable to maintain his calm. For ordinary people, refining a cauldron of pills would definitely take a few hours, if not a few days. However, From the time Jiang Chen put in the ingredients until now, it had only been a dozen breaths of time. The most important thing was that when the cauldron was opened, there was actually a phenomenon: flowers blossoming in the furnace. This was a phenomenon that would only appear when refining supreme-grade pills. Not to mention the Town area, even in solitary North City, there were only a handful of people who could achieve flowers blossoming in the furnace. It failed? While the crowd was exclaiming, Jiang Chen let out a sigh. He took the pill in his hand, sniffed it with his nose, and threw it directly on the ground. A trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. Moreover, there was a trace of redness on his face. It seemed that Jiang Chen's face was red, as if he felt that he had embarrassed himself. "Master, how can you throw away a supreme-grade blood spirit pill just like that? It's too wasteful." "What a waste!" Many people opened their eyes wide, unable to imagine that a supreme-grade blood spirit pill was thrown away just like that. If this was taken out to sell, it would be priceless in this Town area. "It didn't fail! The pill color is pure, the pill shape is perfectly round, and the pill fragrance seeps into the person. It's indeed a supreme-grade blood spirit pill!" At this moment, someone picked up the blood spirit pill. After scrutinizing it carefully, he delivered the blood spirit pill in front of Jiang Chen and said respectfully, "Master, this blood spirit pill is not wrong. This grade of blood spirit pill, who is it for to eat?" "I can't eat it anyway," Jiang Chen said with a frown. Medicinal pills were also divided into grades: ordinary, middle grade, high grade, and superior grade. After that, it was yellow, mystic, earth, and heaven for grades. When he was alive, Jiang Chen refined pills himself. With a casual grab, it would be heaven-grade medicinal pills. And any medicinal pills below heaven grade, whether it was superior grade or black grade, Jiang Chen never ate them. However, he would occasionally refine some low-grade medicinal pills and feed them to his mount. "No, Master, this supreme-grade blood spirit pill, isn't it a waste to throw it away?" "Yes, there's a price but no market," everyone persuaded, not wanting to waste the medicinal pills like this. "I'll give it to you," Jiang Chen said softly and laughed bitterly. "Sure enough, I'm rusty. What a shame." According to Jiang Chen's thinking, although he was rusty after not refining pills for 3,000 years, he should at least refine a yellow-grade medicinal pill. This mere supreme grade was simply damaging to his reputation. Buzz! However, at this moment, a tremor came from the originally calm pill furnace. In an instant, multicolored light danced in the pill furnace, and there were even lotus flowers floating out. After a few breaths, under everyone's shocked gaze, a blood-red medicinal pill the size of a thumb with obscure patterns on its surface rose from the pill furnace along with the lotus flowers. Jiang Chen saw this scene and was stunned for a moment. Then, he smiled and said softly, "So there's another one. 2 pills in one furnace. What kind of medicinal pill is this? Is it also the blood spirit pill?" The surrounding alchemists were stunned, completely unable to understand what they were seeing. "Companion pill!" Tong Sang cried out in surprise. She clearly knew what this meant. When refining pills, if one's technique is superb, they can refine pills of supreme grade and above. And for supreme grade and above pills, there will be companion pills, one main and one auxiliary, Tong Sang said. "You're quite knowledgeable," Jiang Chen said mockingly. "Now, can you put away your ignorant arrogance?" Chapter 13. At this moment, Tong Sang's old face turned red and he remained silent. Previously, his attitude towards Jiang Chen was obvious to everyone. Now, when Jiang Chen threw away the blood spirit pill and the main pill rose from the furnace, Tong Sang didn't know how to end the situation. "Thank you, Elixir Pavilion," Jiang Chen whispered and passed by Tong Sang. He took the main pill and turned to walk outside. The blood spirit pill had been successfully refined. Jiang Chen's top priority was naturally to improve his cultivation. "Master, if you have nowhere to go, you can stay in Elixir Pavilion. All the medicinal materials here are at your disposal. Yes, 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 master, in this Qingyun town area, our elixir pavilion is the best. If you don't mind, please stay. A group of alchemists urged him to stay. For someone who could refine pills beyond the best grade, it was rare. No need, I am from Qianzuan sect. Jiangchen whispered and smiled without looking back. In the future, if I still need to refine pills, I will come to Elixir Pavilion. At that time, I hope you won't dislike me. How can we? We welcome you. Oh? Qianzuan sect? Everyone nodded, but some people frowned and were puzzled. Qianzuan sect was as famous as it was 3,000 years ago. Everyone in the entire godless continent knew about it. However, 3,000 years ago, Qianzuan sect was famous because of its strength. 3,000 years later, Qianzuan sect was famous because of its weakness. Many people were depressed. The person who could refine pills beyond the best grade actually came from Qianzuan sect. Master Tong, where are you going? Not long after Jiangchen left Elixir Pavilion, many people saw Tong Sang carrying a bag and walking out of Elixir Pavilion. To Qianzuan sect? Tong Sang said seriously. Apprenticeship. Huh? Apprenticeship? You are the only third-grade alchemist in Qingyun town. Who can be your master? Qianzuan sect? That famous trashy sect in the godless continent? Is there someone who can teach you? The group of people was dumbfounded. Only the people in Elixir Pavilion knew the truth. Farewell, Qianzuan sect leader! Oh, isn't this sect leader Quanzun? At this moment, at the gate of Qingyun town, the two guards stopped Jiangchen again. The ridicule in their words was very strong. Of course, with Jiangchen's character, he didn't want to be calculative. However, when he saw the mule meat in the hands of the guards, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Before entering the city, Jiangchen had left the mule outside the city. But now, the only mount in Qianzuan sect had probably been slaughtered and eaten by someone else. They had gone too far. Sect leader Quanzun, your mount tastes pretty good. Come, do you want to have a taste? The two guards laughed and waved a piece of roasted mule meat in front of Jiangchen. The meaning of this mockery was extremely obvious. I am a god and do not compete with the secular world. However, the secular world is troublesome and disturbs my god's heart. Jiangchen sighed. As soon as he finished speaking, he pushed out his palm. In an instant, the 13 spiritual veins in his body went berserk. True Qi erupted from his palm like a volcano. True Qi that was stronger than the middle level of the physical state was like a dragon. Under the bombardment, one of the guards was sent flying. This is Qingyun town! How dare you commit murder! The other guard was shocked and angry. True Qi filled his body and a layer of blood appeared on the surface of his body. Middle level of the physical state, just an ant. Jiangchen whispered and raised his palm again. He didn't use any martial arts techniques. It was a simple and unremarkable palm strike. However, in the eyes of the guard, it was like a heavenly curtain. He had an illusion that under this palm, there was nowhere to hide and no way to resist. Bang! After a muffled sound, the surrounding people were shocked to find that the guard didn't resist. He didn't even move and was sent flying by Jiangchen. How can a mortal resist the wrath of a god? Jiangchen whispered. Although this palm didn't use any martial arts techniques, Jiangchen's rich combat experience was enough to block all resistance. It wasn't that the guard didn't want to resist, but that he couldn't resist at all. You can't use martial arts in Qingyun town. What's more, you're attacking the guards of Qingyun town. Kid, you're in trouble. Sect leader Quanzun is quite arrogant, but I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to leave Qingyun town. Around them, a group of onlookers mocked. Some people had already gone to inform the guards in the town. If I want to leave, who can stop me? Jiangchen's eyes narrowed and he turned to look behind him. He saw that in the distance, more than a dozen guards were rushing over. Among them, the leader was at the upper level of the physical state. It's a little troublesome. It seems that I have to use my real skills. Jiangchen thought to himself and stood in place with a calm face. Why aren't you running when you see the guards coming? Are you scared out of your wits? Jiang Qin didn't care about the uproar around him. His originally straight body bent forward slightly, and the true qi in his body erupted like a volcano. On the soles of his feet, the true qi was like a blue cloud, steaming up. In the palms of his hands, the true qi condensed and turned into two true qi swords, one black and one white. How dare you commit murder in Xingyin town? You're courting death. Take him down! After a dozen breaths, a guard rushed over. As he spoke, he directly attacked. Heavenly dance of light and darkness! However, without waiting for them to make a move, Jiang Chen's feet slammed on the ground and his whole body rushed out like a cheetah. His speed was fast and the black and white swords in his hands danced. Everyone only saw a black and white light flash by. Bang! Boom! Without waiting for the crowd to react, the sound of battle rang out. The collision of true qi turned into a strong wind, whistling and wantonly spreading. His figure was like the wind, and the sword aura was like a rainbow. Wherever it passed, blood bloomed like cherry blossoms. There was no one, only a shadow. Like a dance at dawn, accompanied by black and white, the sword aura was like a flower blooming at this moment. After about 10 breaths, when the sword aura disappeared, when the black and white light dissipated, and when Jiang Chen's figure stopped, the whole scene was silent. It was because the 10 guards, including the upper-level physical state guard, had all fallen at this moment. Their bodies were covered with sword marks, and blood was like water, spreading all around. If there's a next time, it won't be so simple. Jiang Chen whispered and did not kill them. After all, there was no enmity between them, and Jiang Chen did not like to kill indiscriminately. What's more, to a godly king, mere mortals didn't amount to much. However, at this moment, a group of people rushed over from afar. Before he even arrived, the palm print formed from his jinqi had already struck out. Chapter 14. Xing Linyun, Xing Linyun? Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed. He hadn't thought that Xing Linyun would come knocking on his door after leaving the pavilion. But so what? With Jiang Chen's current strength, he wouldn't even need to fear upper-level body realm cultivators if he used martial techniques. Bam! With a muffled sound, Jiang Chen didn't make a move, allowing the palm to land on his body without moving an inch. He was like an unmoving boulder, unmoving no matter how the wind blew or rain battered or how heaven and earth shook. Stinking brat, you were pretty cocky back in the pavilion. Xing Linyun rushed in front of Jiang Chen, a trace of killing intent flashing through his eyes. Jiang Chen naturally didn't think much of Xing Linyun. But this time, it wasn't Shui, or the shorty who'd come with Xing Linyun, but 2 other people. These 2 were both old men, and their cultivation was at the lower level of the origin realm. With Jiang Chen's strength, he could contend with any upper-level body realm cultivator, but the difference between him and an origin realm cultivator was too great. What? You called 2 elders from the magnificent martial sect to deal with me in such a short time? Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed slightly, thinking that he was going to suffer today. Or, more accurately, he was going to die here today. Are you scared? Xing Linyun arched an eyebrow. My magnificent martial sect lacks everything, but we don't lack people or experts. Now I'll give you a chance. Kneel and submit. Jiang Chen's pupils abruptly shrank when he heard these words, the flames of fury in his heart erupting like a volcano. Kneel? Apart from his parents, who else in this world had the right to make him kneel? Not even the heavens had the right to do so, much less the gods of the heavens. Your words have angered me, Jiang Chen said softly, his expression indifferent, but the flames of fury in the depths of his eyes burned wildly. So what if I've angered you? How can an upper-level spirit realm cultivator contend with an origin realm cultivator? You're just an ant, Xing Linyun said disdainfully, and waved his hand. Take him. Let's see who dares. But at this moment, an angry roar came from afar. Tong Sang rushed in front of Jiang Chen in a few breaths, then faced Xing Linyun and the others and roared again. Scram! Master Tong? What do you mean? Xing Linyun was stunned, not expecting Tong's appearance. And looking at Tong's appearance, it seemed nothing. Tong Sang said coldly. You even dare to touch the esteemed guest of my elixir pavilion? Is it because your Xingwu sect has gone overboard, or is it because my Dan pavilion can't lift a blade? What? He's an honored guest of the Pill Pavilion. Is there a mistake? Everyone was Tong Sang Lingyan's Lingyan was shocked. Although the Pill Pavilion in Qingyan Town was only a branch hall, it was still a Pill Pavilion. To be able to become an honored guest of the Pill Pavilion was an honor, and it was also a symbol of status. Furthermore, ordinary people, even the leader of a sect, might not be able to be treated as honored guests by the Pill Pavilion. And those who were honored would be protected by the Elixir Pavilion. In this way, how would Xing Linyun have the nerve to attack Jiangchen again? Master Tong, I've already investigated this person. He's just the new leader of the Qianzuan sect, Xing Linyun said. How can someone like him be qualified to be an honored guest of the Elixir Pavilion? What does it have to do with you whether he's qualified or not? Do you have the final say? Does the magnificent martial sect want to interfere with the Elixir Pavilion's business? Tong Sang said disdainfully. Scram! Don't think that just because the magnificent martial sect is about to become an eighth-rate sect, you can override the Elixir Pavilion. Not to mention an eighth-rate sect, even a first-rate sect wouldn't dare to clash with the Elixir Pavilion. Not only did Xing Lingyan's face turn ugly, but it also made everyone's expression turn solemn. Everyone could see that Tong Sang was going to protect Jiangchen in the name of the Elixir Pavilion. The stakes involved in this matter were far from ordinary. All right, then I'll take my leave for now. Xing Lingyan stood on the spot with a gloomy expression. He only left after a few breaths of time. Master, I don't think this matter will end so easily. Why don't I send you back to the Qianzuan sect? Tong Sang turned around with an awkward expression, and his face blushed. Oh? Why are you bringing your luggage with you when you send me back to the Qianzuan sect? Jiangchen teased. He could see through Tong Sang's thoughts. However, Jiangchen didn't refuse. After all, it was all thanks to Tong Sang today. Furthermore, it was just as Tong Sang had said. The matter between the Qianzuan sect and the magnificent martial sect wouldn't end so easily. There were no powerhouses in the Qianzuan sect, so what if the magnificent martial sect came again? Go find a mount, Jiangchen said. Also, bring some herbs and cauldrons to the Qianzuan sect. No problem. I'll get someone to make the arrangements right away. Tong Sang was excited. Not long after, Tong Sang came to the city gate with a few spirit horses and a group of alchemists. Each of them carried their bags and pulled their cauldrons. You, don't tell me you want to move the Pill Pavilion to my Qianzuan sect? Jiangchen was speechless. Looking at the number of alchemists, half of the alchemists in the Qingyan Town Pill Pavilion were here. We'll go to the Qianzuan sect to take a look and enjoy the scenery, Tong Sang said awkwardly. Yes, we're just going to be guests and enjoy the scenery. In this regard, Jiangchen did not refuse. After all, the Qianzuan sect was now in a mess. It was always good to have a few more alchemists. Later, everyone got on their horses and left Qingyan Town. Grandpa, where did he come from? These alchemists seemed to be very respectful to him. In a corner of the Qingyan Town gate, Bai Fingyu, wearing a cloak, asked softly. I don't know. Bai Jiangye shook his head. He was also full of curiosity about Jiangchen. In fact, they had been here for a long time. They had seen the battle between Jiangchen and those guards. Especially when they saw Jiangchen use the dark sky dance. Even Bai Jiangye couldn't recognize what rank of martial skill it was. Then, are we still going to the Qianzuan sect? Bai Fingyu asked. Yes, but not now, Bai Jiangye said. The speed of the spirit horse was very fast. After an hour, Jiangchen returned to the Qianzuan sect. After returning, he arranged the accommodations for these alchemists. Jiangchen entered the sect master hall and sat on the throne. The spirit gathering array was activated, and the surrounding heaven and earth essence swarmed in. Then, the blood spirit pill appeared. It's really rusty. It's only of profound grade. Let's just eat it. Jiang Chen sighed with a look of disgust. Especially when the pill entered his mouth, Jiang Chen's throat bulged and he almost spat it out. The taste is so bad. Jiang Chen muttered and forced himself to eat it. If others knew this expression, it would be difficult for them to say a word. Profound-grade pills were priceless and could be called a treasure. Even the disciples of first-rate sects would find it difficult to obtain this kind of pill. But now, Jiang Chen disliked it because the taste was too bad. Sure enough, comparing people would only make people angry. Chapter 15. Buzz. About half an hour later, when the blood spirit pill took effect, a strong true qi appeared out of thin air in Jiang Chen's body. The true qi was like a dragon, rampaging in his body. Everywhere it passed, his meridians, flesh, and blood seemed to be burning. After a dozen breaths, with a roar, a mysterious light burst out from Jiang Chen's body. From his feet to the top of his head, a Milky Way spirit vein appeared. The 14th spirit vein, open! Open again! Without any pause, the 9 Carol stars revolved, and with the blood spirit pill's effect, Jiang Chen attacked again. Until half a day later, when the blood spirit pill's effect disappeared, Jiang Chen had already opened 20 spirit veins. It's really a black-level blood spirit pill, the effect is too weak. Jiang Chen smiled bitterly, feeling helpless. If it was a heaven-level blood spirit pill, he would probably only need one to open all the remaining spirit veins. The difference in the quality of the pill was not just a little bit. Fortunately, there were many alchemists in the Qianzuan sect now, and this group of alchemists had brought many herbs. Although there was no blood spirit grass, refining other pills could also quickly increase Jiang Chen's cultivation. At this moment, Lu Qingchen entered the main hall with an ugly expression. What's the matter? Jiang Chen asked. Someone from the magnificent martial sect came again. Lu Qingchen sighed. It seems that the magnificent martial sect won't let us go. Hearing this, Jiang Chen could not help but raise his eyebrows, and there was a trace of anger in his heart. Do you really think that the Qianzuan sect is easy to bully? Jiang Chen said coldly. He suddenly got up and walked out of the main hall. When he arrived at the mountain gate of the Qianzuan sect, he happened to see Xing Linyun with a few elders of the magnificent martial sect, as well as a group of disciples, clamoring. The Qianzuan sect seemed a little desolate and down and out. The once huge Qianzuan sect now only had little fatty Jiang Lu left as an outer disciple. As for the inner disciples, they had left the sect one after another during this period of time. Now there were only 3 left. What angered Jiang Chen the most was that the elders of the Qianzuan sect were on the side of the Xingwu sect. They have joined the Xingwu sect. Lu Qingchen, who was following behind, smiled bitterly. Although he was angry, he did not blame the elders. After all, looking at the current situation, it was only a matter of time before the Xingwu sect swallowed up the Qianzuan sect. The earlier he joined the Xingwu sect, the better he could find a way out in the future. Why didn't you join them? Jiang Chen asked. From the day I joined Qianzuan sect, I was a member of Qianzuan sect. Even if I die, I will be a ghost of Qianzuan sect. Lu Qingchen suddenly turned serious. Staring at Jiang Chen, he said in a cold voice, I don't like you, and you don't like me either. But I'm not any worse than you are when it comes to the feelings and responsibilities of the whole venerable school. As soon as these words came out, Jiang Chen could not help being speechless. Jiang Chen did not expect that Lu Qingchen's feelings for Qianzuan sect were so deep. Jiang Chen! I'm here today for one thing! At this moment, Xing Linyun's eyes narrowed. He stared at Jiang Chen and said coldly, A life for a life. Oh? What do you mean? Jiang Chen said softly. The corner of his mouth rose slightly. Are you talking about Mu Fengwu? No matter what method you use to kill Mu Fengwu, you must pay with your life today! Xing Linyun roared. Although he said that, Xing Linyun did not make a move. Even the elders of the Xingwu sect beside him stood in place. They did not dare to take half a step into the Qianzuan sect. Previously, even Mu Fengwu had died in the Qianzuan sect, so they were also afraid. Come in if you want to take revenge. Otherwise, get lost. Jiang Qin chuckled and turned around. Now that the spiritual remnant in the Nine Stacks sect was still there, Jiang Qin was naturally not afraid of Xinglin Yun and the others. Moreover, the other party did not even dare to enter the sect, so why should Jiang Qin waste his time here? I heard that the Venerable Doctrine Steel was destroyed, and the sect protecting Great Formation connected to it was also destroyed. Xinglin Yun spoke in a soft voice. A cold light flashed in her eyes. Looking at Jiang Qin's back, she said in a cold voice, when all of the Xing martial arts sect's experts gather here, it will be the day of the Venerable School's destruction. Oh, you're right. Jiang Qin suddenly stopped. He turned around and walked back to the sect. There was a mocking smile on his face. When he looked at Xinglin Yun, it was as if he was looking at an idiot. Thank you for your reminder. It seems that I should make preparations, Jiang Qin said. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Qin waved his hand. In an instant, the spiritual remnant in the Nine Stacks sect rushed out like a sharp sword. Endless radiance seemed to want to drown everything. Sword chi, saber light, and divine light burst forth. It was like a river of divine light that ran through half of the Qianzuan sect and rushed towards Xinglin Yun and the others. What? This is not the power of the sect protection array. What is this? Outside the sect, Xinglin Yun and the others exclaimed. They felt the terrifying power in the divine light and retreated, not daring to resist. This is the power of a god, Jiang Qin whispered. His eyes narrowed and the true qi in his body burst out. He stomped on the ground and rushed out like a cheetah. In an instant, he rushed in front of Xinglin Yun. Spiritual sealing seal, seal! Following a shout, Jiang Qin formed a seal with his hands. Like a hexagram, it fiercely hit Xinglin Yun's body. After that, Jiang Qin turned around and returned to the sect. At the same time, the river of divine light stopped at the sect's gate. It seemed to be restricted by something and could not rush out. After all, it's just the power of the divine soul remnant. There are too many restrictions and it can't leave the Qianzuan sect, Jiang Qin whispered. He had expected all of this. The divine soul remnant could not leave and Xinglin Yun and the others did not dare to come in. Jiang Qin naturally would not foolishly think of using the divine soul remnant to kill the enemy. From the beginning, Jiang Qin did not intend to use the divine soul remnant to kill Xinglin Yun and the others. What he wanted to do was to use the power of the divine soul remnant to intimidate the group of elders of the magnificent martial sect. Then, he would personally take action and seal Xinglin Yun with lightning speed before the elders of the magnificent martial sect could react. As for the divine soul remnant, he would let it stay at the sect's gate and use it as a sect protection array. You! What did you do? My cultivation has been destroyed! At this moment, Xinglin Yun's face was pale. She could not feel any injuries, but the true qi in her body had disappeared. It was as if her cultivation had been crippled. If the magnificent martial sect dares to attack the Qianzuan sect in 10 days, don't even think about unsealing the spiritual sealing seal in your body in this lifetime. Don't even think about cultivating in this lifetime, Jiang Qin whispered. You! How dare you seal my cultivation? Xinglin Yun roared. The hatred and killing intent in her eyes were not concealed in the slightest. But soon, Xinglin Yun began to laugh maniacally. It was only because he didn't believe Jiang Qin's seal could be too powerful for someone as strong as him. In Xinglin Yun's eyes, only a few Origin Realm cultivators were needed to help her break the seal. Chapter 16. How strong can a seal set by a mere upper-level spirit realm cultivator be? What a joke! Xinglin Yun laughed wildly, and several elders beside him had already walked in front of him. 3 of the lower Origin Realm elders pressed their palms against Xinglin Yun's body. They wanted to use their abundant true qi to forcefully undo the seal within Xinglin Yun's body. However, as soon as the elders' true energies entered Xinglin Yun's body, Xinglin Yun let out a miserable shriek. Blood spurted from his nose and mouth as his entire body trembled. His meridians bulged like dragons, and he looked like he was about to collapse. "What's going on? Stop!" The three elders were shocked and didn't dare force their way through the seal. They hurriedly stopped. "Unless a Tao realm cultivator is willing to use their blood essence to undo the seal for you, only I can do it," Jiangchen said. "The seal will only stay in your body for 10 days. After that, the spirit sealing mark will disappear. If the magnificent sect dares to attack the Qianzuan sect during this time, the price will be your life." As soon as these words came out, the group of people from the magnificent martial sect looked extremely ugly. "The seal will disappear after 10 days. Xing Linyan wiped the blood from her mouth and nose. She couldn't help smirking. "Since that's the case, how can you threaten my magnificent martial sect?" Xing Linyan's words were correct. 10 days later, the seal would be lifted automatically. How could this seal threaten him or the magnificent martial sect? Now, as long as he could leave this place and quietly wait for 10 days, he'd return to his original cultivation. "It can't threaten you?" Jiangchen chuckled. "Your life was in my hands the moment the seal entered your body." As soon as he finished speaking, Jiangchen made a mudra with his hands. A 6-pointed star appeared in front of him. As the pattern rotated, the seal within Xing Linyan's body exploded. A violent force rushed through Xing Linyan's body like a river bursting its banks. In 3 short breaths, 70 to 80% of Xing Linyan's meridians were destroyed. Even 2 spirit veins had been destroyed. "For the next 10 days, don't disturb me from the magnificent martial sect. Otherwise, even if you're thousands of miles away, I can still take your life." Jiangchen waved his hand, and the 6-pointed star pattern in front of him disappeared. He then shouted, "Why aren't you scramming? You!" Xing Linyan was shocked, angry, and even more terrified. He was indeed afraid. If he really angered Jiangchen, his life would be gone. It's fine as long as I stay here for 10 days. Xing Linyan comforted himself. Then, without saying a word, he led the group of people from the magnificent martial sect and left. 10 days? So what if it's 10 days later? Lu Qichen said worriedly. The full Dao steel has been destroyed, and the sect-protecting Grand Formation can no longer be activated. You can use the seal to threaten the Grand Martial sect for 10 days. What will happen after 10 days? If they dare to come after 10 days, I'll kill them. Jiangchen narrowed his eyes. I only need 10 days. Lu Qichen had no idea what Jiangchen was thinking, nor did he know how confident Jiangchen was that he could stop the magnificent martial sect in 10 days. But just when he wanted to ask, Jiangchen had already left. After leaving the sect, Jiangchen came to the alchemy room and saw a group of alchemists refining pellets. Great Master, we don't have many elixirs left in the Venerable School, so we want to refine some elixirs for the whole Venerable School to consume. Tong Sang walked over as soon as he saw Jiangchen. Both his expression and his tone were filled with respect. What's the point of refining so many? Jiangchen smiled bitterly. There aren't more than 10 people in the sect, including the disciples and elders. Tong Sang was stunned. He rubbed his hands together, not knowing what to do. He wanted to flatter Lin Fan, but he didn't expect to hit the nail on the head. Forget it, I'll refine more. Maybe it'll be useful in the future, Jiangchen said. Then, Jiangchen ignored the alchemists. He picked some herbs and started refining pellets. He couldn't refine the blood spirit pellet. After all, he lacked the most important ingredient, the blood spirit grass. But he could still refine some pellets that were similar to the blood spirit pellet. Grand Master is going to refine pellets again. Watch more, learn more. Grand Master's alchemy skills are extraordinary. When the group of alchemists saw that Jiangchen was going to refine pellets again, they gathered around him. And Jiangchen certainly knew why these alchemists had joined the Qianzuan school. The 4 directions alchemy technique uses vital qi to turn into fire. The fire forms the 4 directions and forms the formation. The fire of the 4 directions, south blazing, north extinguishing, east warm, west cold. The 4 fires are interconnected. Fuse the medicinal properties of the herbs to form a pellet. As Jiangqun refined the pellets, he explained to the group of alchemists. After all, the Qianzuan sect needed alchemists to develop in the future. This group of alchemists was the foundation of the Qianzuan sect's alchemy skills. Giving them more benefits would make them stay in the Qianzuan sect. However, the most important thing was that Jiangqun was too lazy and didn't want to refine pellets himself. Therefore, he wanted to impart some alchemy skills to them. It would save him a lot of trouble in the future. Buzz! Buzz! At this moment, 4 flames could be seen burning around the pill cauldron, flickering in and out of existence. The flames were like stars, flickering between light and dark. In the alchemy furnace, the herbs melted and spun like flowing water. After being nourished and smelted by the 4 flames, they gathered into a ball of liquid in half an hour. Then, the 4 flames suddenly merged outside the alchemy furnace. A pillar of fire appeared and drowned the entire alchemy furnace. When the 4 flames merge, that's when the pills are formed, Jiangqun said softly. With a wave of his hand, the flames disappeared. Buzz! Then, the lid of the alchemy furnace flew off and flowers rose from the furnace. It's here again! Flowers in the furnace! This is a supreme-grade pellet! The group of alchemists exclaimed in disbelief. In their eyes, it was normal to refine supreme-grade pellets once in a while. However, to refine supreme-grade pellets consecutively, this was a little too much. Among the alchemists present, other than Tong Sang, none of them had refined supreme-grade pellets before. You must have seen wrongly. When Jiangqun heard that, he couldn't help but roll his eyes and said, Lotus flowers are blooming and flying out of the alchemy furnace. This is a phenomenon that only happens when a black-grade pellet is born. With the 4 directions alchemy skill, if the pellets refined are only supreme grade, then it's really useless, Jiangqun said. As soon as he said that, the group of alchemists was shocked and their eyes were filled with excitement. Master, you were teaching us the 4 directions alchemy skill just now. What's the 4 directions alchemy skill? Why haven't I heard of it before? Everyone was puzzled. Only Tong Sang frowned and seemed to have thought of something. He asked tentatively, Was the 4 directions alchemy skill created by the Tianqin Divine King before he became a god 3,000 years ago? Chapter 17. 3,000 years ago, Jiangqin came into being, leaving behind one legend after another. Alchemy Dao, weapon refinement, array formations, talismans, anything related to cultivation, Jiangqin was proficient in it all. What the world remembered the most was Jiangqin's alchemy Dao, which could be said to be unparalleled. The pill formulas that Jiangqin created in his life were like the stars in the sky, uncountable. The pill refinement techniques that he created were even passed down for thousands of years. Among them, the 4-direction alchemy art was created casually by Jiangqin before he became a god. However, although it was created casually, it was also a supreme pill refinement technique in the eyes of the world. Yes, I was fortunate enough to obtain this pill refinement technique. Jiangqin nodded and said with a smile, The 4-direction alchemy art's formula has already been imparted to you guys. Whether or not you can refine it will depend on your own talent and comprehension ability. Back then, Divine King Tianqin left behind no less than 100 pill refinement techniques. But until now, there are merely dozens of them that are passed down in the world. This 4-direction alchemy art has also already been lost. To think that I could actually see such a pill refinement technique again, Tong Sang exclaimed and looked at Jiangqin, looking like he wanted to say something but hesitated. Jiangqin waved his hand and said, If you want to learn alchemy, just stay in Qianzuan sect. As for other things, there's no need to say anything. The moment these words were said, Tong Sang's eyes could not help but dim. The reason why he came to Qianzuan sect was to acknowledge a master. How could Jiangqin not know what Tong Sang was thinking? Now, Jiangqin's words undoubtedly cut off Tong Sang's thoughts. If I stay in Qianzuan sect, will master always guide me in alchemy? Tong Sang asked. The surrounding alchemists looked at Jiang Chen with expectant faces. Yes. Jiang Chen nodded and said with a smile. I'm a very lazy person and don't like to do things personally. After teaching all of you, I won't have to refine pills personally in the future. With that said, Jiang Chen put away the medicinal pills that he refined previously and said, These are heavenly spirit pills. You guys can use the 4-direction alchemy art to refine them. If you refine yellow grade and above, you can send them to me. All right. Since Grand Master has given the order, we will naturally do our best. Everyone nodded. After that, Jiang Chen left and returned to the main hall. Sitting on the throne, he activated the spirit gathering formation and consumed the heaven spirit pill. One day later, Jiang Chen opened his eyes involuntarily when he heard a tremor coming from his body. The effect of the heaven spirit elixir isn't as good as that of the blood spirit elixir. Only one spiritual meridian was activated in a day. Jiang Chen sighed. He felt the current Xuanzuan sect was really poor. If he had enough herbs and rare treasures, why would he need to refine the heaven spirit pill? He could even eat the blood spirit pill like candy. 21 spirit veins. It's still a long way from the 36 spirit veins recorded in the 9 Carols star. Jiang Chen thought to himself. He could not help but feel a little anxious. Even though he had unlocked 21 spirit meridians, his strength would not be weaker than any body realm cultivator. However, the difference in cultivation realm was there. It was a shortcoming. However, at this moment, Jiang Chen had no choice but to take it step by step. Moreover, the magnificent martial sect would attack the Xuanzuan sect in 10 days. During this period, Jiang Chen naturally had to be prepared. Lu Qingchen, after the Xuanzuan Dao steel was destroyed, is the sect-protecting formation unable to be activated? After a few breaths, Jiang Chen called Lu Qingchen to the main hall. After asking a few questions, he could not help but frown. The Xuanzuan Dao steel is the formation eye of the Xuanzuan sect-protecting formation. With the Dao steel destroyed, the formation naturally cannot be activated. Lu Qingchen had a strange expression and could not help but mutter. Isn't it all because of you? Is it unable to be activated or is it completely broken? Jiang Chen asked, ignoring the latter half of Lu Qingchen's sentence. It's completely broken. The moment the Xuanzuan Dao steel collapsed, the entire sect-protecting formation collapsed. Lu Qingchen sighed. Otherwise, with the sect-protecting formation, how would the magnificent martial sect dare to behave atrociously in my Xuanzuan sect? I understand. Jiang Chen nodded, then got up and said, You take care of the Xuanzuan sect. I'm going to Qingyun town. After saying that, Jiang Chen left the main hall and called Tong Sang. The two rode on the spirit horse and rushed all the way to Qingyun town again. This time, with Tong Sang accompanying him, the guards at the city gate naturally did not dare to stop them. After the two entered Qingyun town unimpeded, they entered the Array Pavilion. There were many top forces in the godless continent. Among them, the Martial Pavilion, Elixir Pavilion, Array Pavilion, and Talisman Pavilion were the most powerful. And this Array Pavilion was the gathering place of Array Masters. On the godless continent, almost all Array Masters would enter the Array Pavilion to cultivate, and the Array Pavilion would also issue rank tokens to verify the Array Master's rank. Moreover, some materials for setting up arrays would be sold in the Array Pavilion. Jiang Chen came to Qingyun town this time and went straight to the Array Pavilion in order to buy the materials used to set up arrays. As for why he called Tong Sang, that was because Jiang Chen was poor. Master, what did you come here for? Tong Sang followed behind Jiang Chen. Many people passed by and nodded to him one after another. But Tong Sang turned a blind eye to those people. There was only Jiang Chen in his eyes. Came to buy materials. Jiang Chen's old face turned red. Rubbing his hands, he said softly, You have to pay the rent for staying in my Xuanzuan sect, ah? Tong Sang was stunned and had a dumbfounded look. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and immediately understood. Master, you taught me alchemy. This is a great kindness. If there's a need, please feel free to speak up. Tong Sang said solemnly. One had to know, the 4 directions alchemy technique that Jiang Chen imparted before could be said to be priceless. If this alchemy technique was taken out to auction, it would be at a sky-high price. In fact, even the headquarters of the Elixir Pavilion would be alarmed. Now, asking Tong Sang to take out some spirit stones was something that Tong Sang ought to do. Oh, isn't this the grade 3 alchemist, Master Tong Sang? What brings you to my array chamber today? Right then, a slightly mocking voice sounded from the rear hall of the array chamber. Looking in the direction of the voice, Tong Sang saw a white-haired elder holding a white jade walking stick walking toward her with a frown. I'm here to accompany the master to buy some materials. Tong Sang frowned slightly and raised his chin. Why? Can't you come? Of course you can. The white-haired old man smiled, but his eyes flickered with a cold glint. However, the materials of my array chamber are more expensive than the elixirs of your elixir pavilion. Can a master like you afford it? The moment that was said, Tong Sang could not help but be stunned. He stole a glance at Jiang Chen and then covered his face silently. That was because Jiang Chen's dressing was truly exuding the smell of a poor man everywhere. Especially that pair of shoes, even his toes were exposed. I'll bear all of the master's expenses here, Tong Sang whispered softly. Then, he could not help but lean into Jiang Chen's ear and whisper, Master, do you want to buy a set of clothes later? That's all right. Jiang Chen's old face flushed red once more, and he coughed lightly. Get me a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. I'll write down the materials. You can arrange it. Chapter 18. When the white-haired old man heard this, he didn't say much and quickly got someone to bring a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. Then, Jiang Chen began to write a list of materials while the white-haired old man stared at Tong Sang. It seemed that there was some conflict between the two of them. What are you looking at? What's so great about setting up an array? Tong Sang was very unhappy and said, Without the pills of my elixir pavilion, how can you array masters improve their realm? What a joke! Without my array pavilion's array, how can your elixir pavilion's sect-protecting array be set up? The white-haired old man's face darkened and his beard blew up. Jiang Chen listened silently and couldn't help but smile. He secretly thought that the elixir pavilion and the array pavilion were still the same as before. They didn't give in to each other and despised each other. Array masters spent their lives studying arrays and rarely had time to cultivate. Therefore, under normal circumstances, array masters would use medicinal pills to increase their cultivation. In the eyes of alchemists, the cultivation of array masters was supported by alchemists. In the eyes of array masters, whether it was the elixir pavilion, martial pavilion, or talisman pavilion, from the sect-protecting array to the spirit-gathering array used during cultivation, they all needed to be completed by them. In this way, everyone thought that they were superior and no one was willing to give in. Over time, such a situation was formed. Lu Shan, don't talk nonsense with me. If you make me unhappy, from now on, the array masters of Qingyan Town will come to my elixir pavilion to buy pills at double the price. Tong Sang was also very domineering. Tong Sang was not only the only third-grade alchemist in Qingyan Town, but also the pavilion master of Qingyan Town's elixir pavilion. With one word, he could make a group of array masters unable to afford pills. All right. You said that. Lu Shan's face was dark, and he didn't say anything. After another 10 breaths, Jiang Chen handed the written list to Lu Shan and said, That's all. So many. Are you going to set up an array? What array? Lu Shan glanced at the list and couldn't help but exclaim. There were over 100 types of materials listed on the list. Sky crystal stone, thick earth mystic yellow, 1000-year iron, wood flowing water. Those materials were all extremely rare. Furthermore, they would only be used when setting up extremely high-level formations. Lu Shan could not understand why a young man with such a low cultivation and dressed in such tattered clothes would need so many precious materials for setting up arrays. Or could it be that this young man was buying these materials for someone else? Master wants to buy these. What are you talking about? Hurry up and do it, Tong Sang said angrily. My master's time is tight. All right. Lu Shan nodded calmly. However, there was a hint of mockery in his eyes. Then, Jiang Chen and Tong Sang sat in the array pavilion's main hall, quietly waiting for the materials. Half an hour later, when Lu Shan brought all the materials that Jiang Chen needed, Jiang Chen patted Lu Shan on the shoulder and asked with a strange expression, You don't lack money, do you? Ah? Tong Sang was stunned. She shook her head and said, No, if I'm short of money, I can just sell a few pills. That's good. Jiang Chen smiled. After putting away the materials, he retreated to the side. Then, Tong Sang took the list and glanced at the price. Her eyes almost popped out of her head. Are you trying to cheat me? Tong Sang shouted angrily. Don't think that I don't know the price of the materials for setting up arrays. These materials add up to 3,000 top-grade spirit stones. You asked for 30,000? Oh, you said before that in the future, when array masters go to your elixir pavilion to buy pills, they will have to pay double the price. Then today, I can only charge you 10 times. Lu Shan said mockingly. Why? Can't afford it? If you can't afford it, then return it. Tong Sang was speechless. He silently glanced at Jiang Chen, only to find that Jiang Chen was looking at him mockingly. It seemed that Jiang Chen had expected that things would turn out like this. Master, this is too expensive. I don't have so many spirit stones with me. Tong Sang was embarrassed. 30,000 top-grade spirit stones was equivalent to the annual income of Qingyun Town Elixir Pavilion. Although he was the pavilion master of Qingyun Town Elixir Pavilion, it was impossible for him to use so many spirit stones. Then what should I do? Jiang Chen said mockingly. I don't have any money either. No money? If you don't have money, then why are you here to buy materials? Return them. Lu Shan said in a low voice. According to the rules, there is a 10% return fee when you return the goods. 30,000 top-grade materials for setting up arrays are all returned. You still have to pay me 3,000 top-grade spirit stones. Otherwise, you won't be able to walk out of the array pavilion today. As soon as he said that, Tong Sang's face darkened instantly. He really did not expect that he would be defeated in the array pavilion today. At this moment, Tong Sang was completely helpless. After all, the elixir pavilion and the array pavilion were on par with each other. Now, he was in the array pavilion's territory and could not compete at all. On the other hand, Jiang Chen was indifferent and asked, If you don't have spirit stones, can you use other things to exchange? That depends on what you have to exchange for it. Lu Shan was unforgiving. After all, his initial goal today was to deal with Tong Sang. As for Jiang Chen, Lu Shan did not care about him at all. He only dealt with him while dealing with Tong Sang. I'll use this to exchange for it, Jiang Chen said softly. Watch carefully. I'll only show it once. If you can't remember it, then don't blame me. With that, Jiang Chen stretched out a finger. A wisp of white true qi appeared on his fingertip. Then, his fingertip moved in the air and drew out lines of true qi. This is an array diagram. The more Lu Shan looked at it, the more shocked he became. Although he did not know what array diagram it was, he could feel that the array diagram recorded in it was extraordinary and incomparably mysterious. After about 30 breaths of time, when Jiang Chen retracted his finger, the array diagram drawn with true qi in front of him disappeared. On the other hand, Lu Shan's eyes were wide open. His eyes shone with excitement and confusion. Can you draw it again? Lu Shan asked. He could vaguely feel that the array diagram Jiang Chen drew was not simple. I said before that I'll only show it once. You can't blame me for not remembering it? Jiang Chen said mockingly. If you want to see it again, or if you want the array diagram in my hands, then shouldn't you show me your intentions? What array diagram is this? Lu Shan did not immediately agree. He frowned and said, If it's an ordinary array diagram, I have it in the array pavilion. Have you heard of the Xuanzhou array? Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows and said, Array masters need array diagrams when they set up arrays. They also need array diagrams when they cultivate and comprehend arrays. Do you need this Xuanjiu array? When Lu Shan heard this, he could not help but be stunned. His eyes were filled with shock. This was because Lu Shan had heard of the Xuanjiu array. It was an array that had been lost for thousands of years. According to legend, once the Xuanjiu array was set up, it could protect an area for thousands of years. It was one of the best defensive arrays. Chapter 19. There were many formations in the world, as numerous as the stars in the sky. However, the strongest formations were engraved in the minds of the people of the world. For example, the heaven-vanquishing formation, the heaven-shrouding formation, and the eight-directional formation. These formations could be said to be peerless, their power overwhelming the heavens. The Xuanjiu formation was as famous as these formations. It was said to be the best in terms of defense. There were few defensive formations in the world that could compare to it. However, 3,000 years ago, after Jiangqin became a god and entered the Nine Heavens Palace, no one could set up the Xuanjiu formation. In 3,000 years, even the blueprint of the Xuanjiu formation had disappeared. It was lost. Now that Lu Shan heard about the Xuanjiu formation, how could he not be moved? However, Lu Shan was not impulsive. He did not believe that this shabbily dressed brat would have the blueprint of the Xuanjiu formation. Moreover, even if he did, he would not hand it over so easily. Once the blueprint of the Xuanjiu formation was auctioned, it could not be measured by spiritual stones. Furthermore, once the world knew that the Xuanjiu formation diagram had appeared, it would probably set off a storm, or even a rain of blood. How do you expect me to believe you? Lu Shan narrowed his eyes and asked. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Jiangqin shrugged his shoulders indifferently. He said, but if you miss it, you'll definitely regret it. Words are not proof. Moreover, I don't know anything about the Xuanjiu formation. What if you use other formations to fool me? Lu Shan asked again. One had to admit that Lu Shan was very cautious. However, to Jiangqin, no matter how cautious he was, Lu Shan would not be able to escape from the moment he displayed the blueprint of the Xuanjiu formation. Jiangqin knew very well that alchemists loved pill recipes as much as their lives, while formation masters loved formation blueprints as much as their lives. I just bought some materials to deploy a tactical formation. I'm going to deploy the 9 small formations of mystery. If you're interested, follow me. I'll show you, Jiangqin said with a smile. There was a mysterious look in his eyes. Tong Sang's expression couldn't help but become strange when she heard this. He suddenly understood that Jiangqin had circled around in order to trick the Array Pavilion's array masters into going to Qianzuan's sect. The 9 minor mysterious arrays? Lu Shan frowned. Clearly, he had never heard of this array. Do you think you can set up the Black 9 Great Formation with such little materials? I can only set up a rough version of the 9 minor formations, Jiangqin said. But the 9 minor formations are enough to open your eyes. Lu Shan hesitated for a moment, then nodded his head and said, There's no harm in going. I want to see how capable a young brat like you can be. Then, Lu Shan entered the back of the pavilion of arrays. Not long after, he walked out with a dozen array masters. These people will come with me. Let everyone see what you're capable of so that you don't fool us, Lu Shan said. It's over, it's over. Lu Shan probably won't return to the pavilion of arrays this time, Tong Sang said to himself. He glanced at Jiangqin and thought that Jiangqin's trick was brilliant. All right, come with me then. Jiangqin was overjoyed when he saw the dozen array masters. This was because, with Jiangqin's current level of cultivation, it was impossible for him to deploy the 9 great formations by himself. He had wanted to trick a few array masters into going back to help him set up the array. But now, it seemed that he did not have to do it himself. Moreover, since these array masters had gone to Qianzuan's sect, Jiangqin would not let them return. Then, the group rode on their spiritual horses and returned to Qianzuan's sect in half an hour. Qianzuan's sect? You're a disciple of Qianzuan's sect? Lu Shan was stunned. He thought that Jiangchen was from some big sect. He did not expect that he would bring them to such a famous sect. No. Jiangchen shook his head. You're not a disciple of Qianzuan's sect? Then why did you bring us here? Lu Shan rolled his eyes. He did not know what Jiangchen was up to. I'm not a disciple of Qianzuan's sect. I'm the sect leader of Qianzuan's sect. Jiangchen chuckled. Let's go and set up the array. I'll show you. Sect leader of Qianzuan's sect? Lu Shan was speechless. He pursed his lips and muttered, what a broken sect. If you're a sect leader, you might as well be a disciple of another sect. Qianzuan's sect was the #1 sect in the world. It occupied a vast area, covering 8,000 miles. The interior of the sect occupied 7,000 miles and was divided into 7 peaks. Each peak occupied 1,000 miles. However, Qianzuan's sect had declined. Only the main peak was still active. The other 6 peaks were empty and had been abandoned for a long time. The 9 minor Xian formations have 36 formation bases, 1,080 formation runes, 36,000 formation stones, and 6 formation eyes. The formation is constructed using the power of the hexagram, combined with the movement of the earth, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth as the medium. At that moment, Jiangchen stood at the peak of a deserted mountain. He looked at the clouds in front of him and said, So next, you're going to set up the array? Lu Shan asked hurriedly. He was curious and wanted to see the 9 minor formations as soon as possible. No, I'll clean up first. Jiangchen looked back and smiled. His eyes and smile were flirtatious. However, Lu Shan and the group of array masters almost vomited blood. You brought us here to clean up? Lu Shan shouted angrily. His eyes were about to spit fire. Kid! How dare a mere Qianzuan sect fool us? We're array masters from the array pavilion. Can you afford to offend us? The array masters shouted angrily. They were very dissatisfied. If I don't clean up, how can I see the direction of the earth? There's so much debris on the ground that it's interfering with my vision. Jiangchen smiled. Of course, I can clean it up myself. It'll take 10 days to half a month, but can you wait for me for 10 days to half a month? After saying that, Jiangchen chuckled and added, What I mean is, other than the main peak, the other 6 peaks have to be cleaned. If I clean one peak alone, it'll take 10 days to half a month. If I clean 6 peaks, it'll take, that's enough. That's enough. We'll clean it for you. Fine. We'll clean it for you. However, if your so-called 9 minor Xian formations is just a bluff, then do you know how serious the consequences will be? The array masters shouted angrily. They were even more unwilling to listen to him. Who would be willing to wait for so long? They had nothing better to do, so they came to the Qianzuan sect to watch him clean up. Set up the array! Next, more than 10 array masters set up spirit-purifying arrays one after another. There was only one use for the spirit-purifying array, and that was to remove all miscellaneous items. For cleaning purposes, this spirit-purifying array was the best. Chapter 20. Half a day later, more than a dozen array masters set up the spirit cleansing array on the 6 abandoned mountains. Another day passed. Under the effect of the spirit purifying array, the 6 deserted mountains were cleared of all debris and dust, and they looked brand new. Take it! At this moment, Jiangchen was standing outside the hall, handing the formation diagram of the 9 formations of small mystery to Lu Shan. Lu Shan took the blueprint and frowned in dissatisfaction. Aren't you going to do it yourself? We're just here to take a look at the 9 minor formations. We're not here to do manual labor. Array masters love formations as much as their lives. Now that I've given you the blueprint of the 9 minor formations, you're still not satisfied? Jiangchen mocked. If you don't want it, give it back to me. I'll set it up myself. After these words were spoken, Lu Shan immediately withdrew his hand and hugged the array map. However, the displeasure in his eyes was still undisguised. You can study the 9 minor formations on your own. It'll be of great help to your attainments in array formations, Jiangchen said. You can study the blueprint and set it up yourself. It's a gain for you. That may be the case, but what if the 9 minor formations is too ordinary? Even if we learn and study it, it'll be useless. Lu Shan frowned. As he spoke, Lu Shan opened the formation map. When he saw the densely packed formation patterns and various annotations on the formation map, a trace of shock involuntarily flashed across his eyes. The strength and level of an array formation could be determined with a simple method. The more array patterns there were, the stronger the power and the higher the level of an array formation. There were over 1,000 runes on the minor mystic 9 formation diagram alone. Array formations were divided into 4 levels: heaven, earth, black, and yellow. The lowest level, yellow, would not have more than 100 array patterns. The highest level, heaven, would have about 800 to 900 array patterns. And now, the minor black 9 formation required over 1,000 runes. Could it be that it surpassed the level of a heaven-grade formation? What level is this array formation? Lu Shan asked. I'm not sure. Jiangchen shook his head. You don't know? This is the formation diagram that you gave me. Even you don't know about it? Lu Shan was stunned. Disbelief was written all over his face. However, what Jiangchen said was the truth. The Mystic 9 formation was a peerless formation. This was publicly acknowledged. As for the rough version of the Mysterious 9 formations, which was also known as the Minor Mysterious 9 formations, no one knew that it was created by Jiangchen on the spot. Therefore, even Jiangchen wasn't sure what level the Minor Mysterious 9 array formation belonged to. However, the 9 mystic formations should be more than enough to protect Qianzuan sect. You guys go ahead and set up the formation. Once you're done, you'll know the power of this Minor Mysterious 9 formation. At that time, you'll also know what level this formation belongs to. Jiangchen waved his hand and said, I'll leave the rest to you guys. With that, Jiangchen turned around and entered the main hall. He sat down on the throne and began to cultivate. Lu Shan's face darkened when he saw that. He felt like he had been cheated. It was as if he had been abducted to do manual labor. I'll believe you for now. If this Minor Mysterious 9 formation is just an ordinary formation, see if I don't teach you a lesson. The array pavilion will definitely not let you off easily, Lu Shan said solemnly. Following that, more than a dozen formation masters got to work. They outlined the formation patterns, cast the formation stones, divided the terrain, and set up the formation eye. At the same time, the group of alchemists refined a few more heavenly spirit pills and sent them to Jiangchen's hands. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In these 3 days, Jiangchen had been cultivating in the main hall. No one came to disturb him. Only those alchemists would send over medicinal pills from time to time. In these 3 days, the spirit meridians in Jiangchen's body were constantly opened. Currently, 33 meridians had already been opened. He was only 3 spirit meridians away from the perfected realm recorded in the 9 Carol's heavenly stars. 3 days have passed. 7 days left, Jiangchen said softly. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. Jiangchen was very clear that 7 days later, when the magnificent martial sect attacked, it would be the moment that determined the survival of Qianzuan sect. At that time, if the Qianzuan sect did not die, it would be the magnificent martial sect. That old and young pair. Why aren't they here yet? Suddenly, Jiangchen thought of the 2 people he met in the Elixir Pavilion. Especially that young girl. Jiangchen was very concerned about her. Of course, Jiangchen did not care about that young girl's peerless looks. Instead, he was concerned about her great Yin body. If a great Yin body could successfully transform into Yin, it could become a great Yin body. The great Yin body was rare throughout history. Among the deities in the heavens, no one had the great Yin body. Among the thousands of deities, The position of the great Yin Master God had always been empty since ancient times. Jiang Chen's idea was very simple. Now that there were many things waiting to be done in Xuanzuan's sect, the disciples had either left or fled. It was time to take in some disciples with good aptitude to replenish the blood. As for Jiang Chen's so-called good aptitude, at the very least, it was the kind that could become a deity. Moreover, it had to be the kind that could become a master god. "I hope she will come to me," Jiang Chen said softly. "It's not easy to meet someone with a great Yin body. If she can be nurtured well and become a master god in the future, she will be a great help to me." Buzz! At that moment, an earth-shattering sound exploded. The mountain gate of Xuanzuan's sect shook. At the same time, the entire Xuanzuan sect was surrounded by 9 rays of light. The sun, moon, and stars appeared in the sky above Xuanzuan's sect. It was as if the Xuanzuan sect was standing in the middle of the starry sky. The desolated Xuanzuan sect was now filled with a mysterious aura. "What kind of array is this? Oh my God! 9 colors, the sun and the moon shine together. This is a heaven-level array?" At that moment, on the 6 mountains, a group of array masters exclaimed. Their eyes were filled with shock. They had just finished setting up the small black 9 array formation. They did not expect such an earth-shattering phenomenon to occur the moment the small black 9 array formation was completed. "Back then, I was fortunate enough to witness the great defensive array of solitary North City." Lu Shan frowned. At that time, when the great defensive array of solitary North City was set up, such a terrifying phenomenon did not occur. "I remember that the great defensive array of solitary North City is Earth level, right?" "It is Earth level." "That means, this small black 9 array formation has surpassed Earth level and is now heaven level?" At that moment, Jiang Chun was sitting on the throne. Naturally, he knew that the small black 9 array formation was completed. At that moment, Jiang Chun heaved a sigh of relief. At least, it would be impossible for the magnificent sect to destroy Xuanzuan's sect after 10 days. With the small black 9 array formation, unless 3 or more Dao realm cultivators attacked together, no one would be able to break this array formation. According to Jiang Chen's knowledge, there were only 1 or 2 Dao realm cultivators in the magnificent sect. With that, Xuanzuan's sect was in an undefeatable position. However, Jiang Chun was not satisfied with just being undefeatable. The other party had already come knocking on his door. If he did not fight back, how could he take it lying down? Chapter 21. There were 4 levels of the martial Tao: spirit severing, body, thought, and origin. After that was the Tao realm. Jiang Chun was now at the upper level of the spirit realm, but he had opened 33 spirit meridians. The amount of true qi in his body was no less than that of an upper-level body realm cultivator. Even a lower-level thought realm cultivator would find it difficult to compete with Jiang Chun in terms of the amount of true qi. However, every realm was different. They all had their own characteristics and advantages. Therefore, no matter how rich Jiang Chen's true qi was, it was impossible for him to compete with an origin realm cultivator. Since he couldn't compete, the only thing Jiang Chun could do now was to break through as quickly as possible. However, there were still 7 days left. Even if Jiang Chun was a god, he wouldn't be able to break through to the origin realm in 7 days. "How dare they attack my Xuanzuan sect, humph?" Jiang Chun whispered, then closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. However, he already had a plan in his heart. Another 2 days passed and there were only 5 days left before the Xingwu sect attacked. At this moment, Jiang Chun had already opened 36 spirit meridians. The last step, condensing the heavenly star. As long as the heavenly star is not extinguished, true qi will never be exhausted, Jiang Chun whispered. This was also the most difficult step of the 9 Carol's heavenly star technique. Since ancient times, there had been no lack of monstrous geniuses and people with shocking talents. There were also people who had cultivated the 9 Carol's heavenly star and opened 36 spirit meridians. However, in the end, those people all stopped at the step of condensing the heavenly star. Gathering and condensing the 36 spirit meridians into a formation, forming a circle until the 36 spirit meridians merged. During this period, not only did one have to endure extreme pain, one also had to be extremely careful. The fusion of spirit meridians would collapse with the slightest carelessness. Spirit meridians were interconnected. Once one spirit meridian collapsed, the rest would also collapse. At that time, although one's cultivation wouldn't be crippled, it would be 3 to 5 months before they could walk again. For safety's sake, there can't be any mistakes, Jiangchen whispered. Even though he had condensed the heavenly star once before, he didn't dare to be careless. I've been waiting for you for half a day. You've been cultivating all this time, so it's not good to disturb you. At this moment, Lu Shan walked in excitedly from outside the hall. What's the matter? Jiangchen blinked his eyes and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. The way I see it, the Qianzuan sect has many things to do. If this goes on, I'm afraid the Qianzuan sect is going to be destroyed, Lu Shan said with a straight face. Especially in the area of formations. Although we have the 9 mystic formations protecting the mountain gate now, we don't have the spirit gathering formation and other formations that we need for cultivation. So? Jiangchen teased. So? Lu Shan's face suddenly turned red when he heard that, but he still maintained a straight face and said, So, I plan to stay in the Qianzuan sect and use everything I've learned to set up formations for the Qianzuan sect, restoring the Qianzuan sect to its former glory. Pooh! As soon as these words came out, Jiangchen couldn't help but laugh out loud. Restore the sect to its former glory? Could Lu Shan do it? If you want to stay, just say it. There's no need to boast so much. Jiangchen smiled. Coincidentally, the Qianzuan sect lacks a formation master. If you're willing to stay, you can stay. Really? Lu Shan was excited, but he seemed a little hesitant after that. He rubbed his old hands together, and looked like he wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. I've already given you the blueprint of the 9 mystic formations. If you're willing to work hard for the Qianzuan sect, I'll give you other formations as well. Jiangchen smiled. How could he not know what Lu Shan was thinking? Sure! This time, Lu Shan was very decisive and agreed immediately. After all, someone who could take out a formation that surpassed Earth grade and even Heaven grade would definitely have other formations. Besides, Lu Shan wasn't stupid. There must be a reason why Jiangchen had made Tong Sang and the other alchemists stay in the Qianzuan schools so loyally. Not only did he want the formation blueprint, but he also wanted to find out more about Jiangchen. He wanted to see how many secrets this young man was hiding. Wait a moment. At that moment, Jiangchen used his qi as a brush and ink to sketch out a formation blueprint in the air. He also noted the things to take note of when setting up the formation, as well as the materials to be used. Lu Shan looked on silently from the side, but there was a hint of disdain in his eyes. That was because there were only slightly more than 300 runes on the formation blueprint. It was a far cry from the 9 mystic formations formation. You're still disdainful? Jiangchen was speechless. You think a formation with more than 300 runes is weak? It's at least an Earth grade formation. Then, what grade does the 9 mystic formations formation belong to? Lu Shan asked. He felt that ever since he saw the 9 mystic formations formation, he had become a little arrogant. I'm not sure, but it's at least beyond Heaven grade. Jiangchen was not sure. He frowned. If it's beyond Heaven grade, it should be Qin grade. The grades of formations were Heaven, Earth, Black, and Yellow. Yellow was the weakest, and Heaven was the strongest. But above Heaven grade, there were Sun Moon Star grade. In such a remote place like solitary North City, there was not even a Heaven grade formation. Naturally, it was impossible to see a Qin grade formation. In fact, many people in solitary North City had never even heard of Sun Moon Star grade. Help me set it up within a day, and I'll give you the formation blueprint, Jiangchen said. But if you want to stay, you'll have to pay the rent. The materials to set up the formation will be the rent. Air. You. Why are you so stingy? Lu Shan was furious. Jiang Chun looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh. Because I'm poor. Lu Shan was speechless. As the leader, was he really that poor? But Lu Shan did not mind. He took the formation blueprint and started to set up the formation. In order to condense the stars, Jiang Chun had to make some preparations, such as the formation that Lu Shan set up. This formation was called the Spirit Strengthening Formation. It could strengthen one's essence, qi, and spirit. It could also stabilize one's cultivation and spiritual meridians. In addition, Jiang Chun also had to prepare some things. Among them, elixirs were indispensable. After a few breaths, Jiang Chun entered the alchemy room. He wanted to refine some elixirs by himself. But as soon as he entered the alchemy room, Jiang Chun saw Jiang Lu. Jiang Lu was the only outer disciple left in Qianzuan sect. During this period, Jiang Chun had been busy with trivial matters and cultivation. Naturally, he had forgotten about Jiang Lu. Now, seeing Jiang Lu, Jiang Chun was dumbfounded. Jiang Lu was originally a little fatty, similar to a short winter melon. But now, after not seeing him for a while, Jiang Lu had become fatter. Jiang Chun! Jiang Lu also saw Jiang Chen and ran over excitedly. But, after calling out Jiang Chen's name, Jiang Lu's eyes flashed with a trace of panic. I forgot, you are now the leader of Qianzuan sect. Jiang Lu looked panicked and hurriedly said, Greetings, leader. Silly tiger, no matter who I am still your brother. I am still the same Jiang Chun who was exiled from Qinchuan Jiang family with you. Jiang Chun said, smiling. Patting Jiang Lu's shoulder, he said, I might not be who I used to be, but you and I are still who we used to be. Chapter 22. Jiang Lu, together with Jiang Chen, came from the Qinchuan Jiang family. But different from Jiang Chen, Jiang Lu was a branch disciple, and his talent was extremely low. He was rejected by the family and exiled to the Qianzuan sect. In terms of background, Jiang Lu was several times more pitiful than Jiang Chen. In terms of talent, Jiang Lu would probably not be able to step into the Tao realm in this lifetime. However, Jiang Chen's soul was reincarnated, and since he occupied this body, he was a member of the Jiang family. As for Jiang Lu, Jiang Chen's previous owner, the two were brothers made of iron. Although the soul of this body was replaced by Jiang Chen after the rebirth. However, Jiang Chen had merged with the memories of this body. Therefore, Jiang Chen would not forget Jiang Lu, this little fatty, and would not put on a high and mighty attitude in front of Jiang Lu. Jiang Chen, I feel that you have changed. Jiang Lu muttered. In the past, you and I were the same, yes. Jiang Chen smiled and said, In the past, you and I were not only called trash in the family, but after coming to the Qianzuan sect, we were still known as trash by everyone. But now I am different, Jiang Chen said. Hearing this, Jiang Lu's expression could not help but dim a little. Jiang Chen had changed, but he, Jiang Lu, had not. Even Jiang Lu himself despised his own innate aptitude. Until now, I have only opened 3 spirit veins. In this lifetime, I am afraid that I will not be able to step into the Tao realm. Jiang Lu sighed. I really want to step into the Tao realm, see the rivers and rivers, fly in the sky and burrow into the earth, and see the world's scenery. If you want to fly in the sky and burrow into the earth, you can only step into the Tao realm. Ordinary martial arts cultivator's lifelong dream is to become a Tao realm cultivator. Just stepping into the Tao realm? Jiang Chen smiled and patted Jiang Lu's shoulder, saying, I think your achievements are more than that. As soon as these words came out, Jiang Lu smiled bitterly. He knew better than anyone how bad his talent was. In his eyes, Jiang Chen's words were undoubtedly comforting him. One had to know that Jiang Lu's spiritual vein was like a boulder. It was very difficult to open it. For an ordinary person to open a spirit vein, it might take 10 days to half a month, or even a few months. As for Jiang Lu, it took him a year to open his first spirit vein. The spirit meridians in his body could be said to be indestructible and difficult to open. The sacred body of the primordial era, whose spiritual meridians are like locks, has appeared several times since ancient times, but none of them knew how to unlock them. Over time, the sacred body of the primordial era became the world's most useless body. Jiangchen whispered. His eyes flashed as he stared at Jianglu and said, "And you are the sacred body of antiquity." "Ah? I have a holy physique!" Jianglu exclaimed, his face full of excitement. But soon, Jianglu's eyes dimmed, and the smile on his face disappeared. If one did not know how to unlock the sacred body of the immemorial era, it would be the most useless body in the world. It would be very difficult to cultivate. So what if I have a sacred body? If I don't know how to unlock, I'm still useless. Jianglu smiled bitterly. In the entire solitary North City, and even the Eastern Wilderness, there are no more than 3 people who know how to activate the sacred body of the immemorial era. Jiangchen smiled mockingly and said, "And I happen to be one of them." Jianglu could not help but widen his eyes. He believed in Jiangchen's words. He had always believed in them. But he did not know why Jiangchen knew how to activate the sacred body of the immemorial era. "Later, I will make you a pill. If you can survive after taking it, you can activate the sacred body of the immemorial era. Otherwise, you will die," Jiangchen said in a low voice. A pill could activate the sacred body of the immemorial era. It seemed simple, but in reality, it was very risky. Once the pill took effect, it would destroy Jianglu's meridians and even his spiritual meridians. During this period, if Jiangchen could not survive, he would die. "Do you dare to gamble with your life?" Jiangchen asked. "Why wouldn't I dare?" Jianglu's eyes narrowed. "Although everyone knows that I'm useless, I don't want to live like this forever. If there's a chance to change all of this, I don't mind risking my life." "Okay, I'll look for you when the time comes." Jiangchen nodded. Then, Jianglu left, and Jiangchen began to refine the pills. Since this group of alchemists had joined Qianzuan's sect, there were all kinds of herbs in the alchemy room. Jiangchen had no idea where these alchemists had gotten the herbs. Jiangchen even saw a spiritual blood herb. "It's a pity that I can't use the spiritual blood herb now," Jiangchen whispered. After picking a few herbs, he began to refine the pills. A group of alchemists had already gathered around. Not only did they want to see Jiangchen's alchemy skills, but they also wanted Jiangchen's advice. "Grandmaster, what kind of pills are you going to refine this time?" "Grandmaster, the 4 directions pill concoction technique is too difficult. Among us, there are only 3 people who have mastered the 4 directions pill concoction technique. Do you have any higher-end pill concoction techniques that are easier to cultivate?" Listening to the voices around him, Jiangchen nodded and said, "Yes." Then, Jiangchen no longer said anything and began to refine the pills using the 4 directions alchemy technique. After a dozen breaths, when a profound-level pill came out of the furnace, exclamations sounded one after another. But compared to before, the exclamations now were obviously much softer. After all, this group of alchemists could be considered experienced and knowledgeable. Now, even if Jiangchen refined a higher-level pill, they wouldn't be surprised. "Tong Sang, come to the main hall later. I'll write a collection of alchemy techniques. You can take it and study it with them," Jiangchen said. "By the way, help me get some herbs. I want to refine a pill for Jianglu." "Okay, I'll listen to Grandmaster's arrangements." Tong Sang nodded. Then, Jiangchen left and returned to the main hall. The formation that he had asked Lu Shan to set up was already completed. "Now that I have the formation and the pill, it's time to condense the stars," Jiangchen said softly. After activating the formation and consuming the pill, he sat down cross-legged and calmed his mind. Buzz! Then, with a loud buzz, Jiangchen's body trembled. The true qi in his body was like a tsunami, roaring crazily. The 36 spirit veins in his body were like dragons, intertwining and merging with each other. During this time, waves of piercing pain swept through his body, as if his body was about to explode. Especially when the spirit veins collided with each other, the true qi in his body was like a sharp sword, cutting Jiang Chen's internal organs. If not for the formation protecting his body and the pill, Jiang Chen wouldn't have been able to hold on. Fortunately, Jiang Chen was well prepared. Moreover, he had the experience of his previous life. After half an incense stick's time, when a roar came from Jiang Chen's body, the 36 spirit veins converged and turned into a hexagram. Looking into his body, he saw that the spirit veins in Jiang Chen's body had all disappeared. However, in his dantian, a ball of light like a star was flickering. Streams of true qi suddenly gushed out from this star, growing and multiplying endlessly. This was the heavenly star. From now on, as long as the heavenly star is not broken, true qi will never run out, Jiang Chen said softly. When he opened and closed his eyes, there seemed to be a ray of starlight flowing in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 23. From the reincarnation of his soul to the present, Jiang Chen had spent a lot of time on the 9-caral star. Otherwise, Jiang Chen would have entered the body realm long ago if he had followed his usual cultivation method. Fortunately, as long as the heavenly star was formed, all his efforts would be worth it. From now on, Jiang Chen did not have to worry about running out of true qi when he fought with others. As long as he was still alive and had a breath of life, he could continue to fight. Bone cleansing! Condense! After condensing the heavenly star, Jiang Chen made some slight adjustments. Then, true qi burst out from the heavenly star like a flood. True qi swept and flowed through his limbs and bones like a raging fire. The impurities in his body were refined and expelled from his body. Half an hour later, a layer of black dirt appeared on Jiang Chen's body and emitted a foul stench. These were the impurities in his body that were previously blocked and hidden in various parts of his body. Now, under the cleansing of his true qi, these impurities naturally could not stay in his body. At the same time, if one took a closer look, they would find Jiang Chen's skin was shining under the layer of black dirt. It was as flawless as an ice crystal. At the same time, the essence, qi, and spirit in his body were also growing rapidly. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn had passed, Jiang Chen felt a sharp pain coming from his body. No hurry, take it slow, Jiang Chen thought to himself. He could not rush until he had cleansed his bones. Otherwise, his body would not be able to withstand it and collapse. After the spirit realm was the body realm. The body realm was to cleanse one's bones and enhance one's essence, qi, and spirit while removing the impurities in the body. And now, after Jiang Chen's cultivation, the essence, qi, and spirit in his body had increased by a large amount. I still haven't entered the body realm and haven't condensed a single drop of essence blood, Jiang Chen said softly. Cleansing one's bones and strengthening one's essence, qi, and spirit would allow one to enter the body realm. The symbol of entering the body realm was to condense essence blood in the heart. Condensing a drop of essence blood would allow one to enter the body realm and become a low-level body realm cultivator. For cultivators with essence blood, the physical strength of their bodies would far surpass that of ordinary people. However, condensing blood essence was extremely difficult. Only 10,000 drops of blood would be able to condense it. No matter how fast Jiang Chen's cultivation speed was, it was impossible for him to step into the physique realm in one step. Furthermore, Jiang Chen was only cultivating for a while and did not intend to step into the physique realm at this moment. The 9-caral star can be considered the strongest technique of the spirit realm, Jiang Chen said softly. As for the strongest physical body realm technique, if I remember correctly, it should be the Darkness Master God's endless formula, right? Thinking of this, Jiang Chen couldn't help but search through his memories. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. The Darkness Master God had once been friends with Jiang Chen through life and death. The two of them had often discussed the Tao in the 9 Firmaments' divine palace. Thus, Jiang Chen knew how to cultivate the endless formula. He had thought that it would be impossible for him to cultivate the infinity formula for the rest of his life. But who would have thought that he would be reborn? Since he was reborn, he naturally wanted the best. Every stage must be cultivated to the highest level. I want every technique to be the best, Jiang Chen thought to himself. However, what made Jiang Chen speechless was that the difficulty of cultivating the infinity formula was no less than the 9 Carols star. In fact, it was even above the 9 Carols star. The conditions for cultivating the infinity formula were harsh. It even required lightning to refine one's body. Where can I find lightning to strike me in the clear sky? Jiang Chen smiled bitterly. He thought that if he were to cultivate the infinity formula in the future, he would probably be treated as a masochist by others. Looks like I can only carve talismans to attract lightning, Jiang Chen thought for a while. If he wanted to attract lightning under the clear sky, according to Jiang Chen's current strength, there were only 2 ways. The first was to set up the lightning guiding formation. However, the materials required for the lightning guiding formation were too many and too complicated to set up. Jiang Chen could not be bothered to waste time. The most important thing was that the materials for setting up the lightning guiding formation were too expensive. As for Jiang Chen, he was too poor. The second was to carve talismans. Although it took a long time, it was cheap to carve talismans. After a short rest, Jiang Chen brought over a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. He roughly wrote down his alchemy insights into a small booklet, and let Tong Seng take it. After that, he wrote another book about array formations and gave it to Lu Shan for a group of array formation masters to comprehend. Finally, Jiang Chen came to the elixir pavilion. Where are the herbs that I asked you to prepare? Jiang Chen asked. It's all ready, but one of the herbs was not found. We also went back to the elixir pavilion, but there was no such herb in the elixir pavilion. Tong Seng's expression was slightly awkward, seemingly because he could not complete the task that Jiang Chen had instructed him to do. Which one are you lacking? Jiang Chen asked. Blazing flame grass, Tong Seng said. This herb is even rarer than blood spirit grass. In this area near Qingyun Town, it seems that only the Sunset Forest south of Qingyun Town has it. However, there were many demon beasts in the Sunset Forest, and there were even Dao Realm demon kings. Under normal circumstances, very few people would enter the Sunset Forest. Only the monster hunters and disciples of the various sects who went out for training would enter. According to what Tong Seng and the others knew, there was indeed blazing flame grass in the Sunset Forest, but it was in the depths of the forest. In that place, the demon beasts were very high level. Even monster hunters would not easily set foot in that place. The slightest carelessness would cause one to be devoured by the demon beasts. Without blazing flame grass, there is no way to refine the flame breaker pill, and gemless saint body of the ancients cannot be unlocked. Jiang Chen frowned, then stood up and turned to leave. Master, where are you going? Tong Seng hurriedly asked. However, Jiang Chen waved his hand and did not answer. Tong Seng and the others also understood that Jiang Chen was most likely going to the Sunset Forest. Master, I'll go with you. Tong Seng hurriedly caught up. No need. Jiang Chen shook his head. Although Tong Seng's cultivation was quite high at the lower level of the origin realm, any random demon beast in the depths of the Sunset Forest was stronger than Tong Seng. To tell the truth, Jiang Chen felt that Tong Seng would be a burden if he followed. Moreover, Jiang Chen had many secrets on him to begin with. When he went to the Sunset Forest this time and faced high-level demon beasts, some of his secrets were bound to be exposed. If there was someone following him, how would he be able to keep these secrets? At that time, if some of his secrets were leaked, it would cause a lot of trouble. You all cultivate well in the Qianzuan sect and comprehend Pil Dao, Jiang Chen said, then mounted his spirit horse and left the Qianzuan sect. The spirit horse was very fast, and Jiang Chen arrived at Qingyun Town after the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. To the south was the Sunset Forest. Qianzuan sect head. Stinking brat. At this moment, before Jiang Chen could enter the Sunset Forest, 2 angry shouts sounded from the gates of Qingyun Town. There was even a trace of resentment in the voices. Who are you? Jiang Chen looked back and saw a middle-aged man and a middle-aged woman dashing towards him at high speed. What are you trying to do by abducting a pill master of my pill pavilion? I wanted to go to the Qianzuan sect to find you, but you delivered yourself to my doorstep. The middle-aged man's face was dark, but there was a trace of resentment in his eyes, like a resentful wife who had been bullied. Chapter 24. Jiang Chen was a little confused. He didn't know the two people in front of him at all, especially the middle-aged man's resentful look. Jiang Chen's hair stood on end. Little brother, aren't you going overboard by doing this? The middle-aged woman's face was gloomy. It's bad enough that you abducted more than half of the alchemists from the Elixir Pavilion. Why did you abduct all the array masters from the array pavilion to your Qianzuan sect? Abducted? Jiang Chen was relieved when he heard that. The two people in front of him were most likely from the array pavilion and Elixir Pavilion. Now they were here to ask for people. However, Jiang Chen's face was indifferent. There was a hint of mockery on his face as he chuckled. Why would I abduct them? They volunteered to go to my Qianzuan sect. If you don't believe me, you can go to the Qianzuan sect to find them and ask if they're willing to come back. The middle-aged man opened his mouth but suddenly didn't know what to say. Moreover, the resentment in his eyes was even more intense. It's fine if you abducted others, but you abducted the pavilion master of the Array Pavilion and Elixir Pavilion in Qinyan Town, the middle-aged woman said coldly. Now that the two pavilion masters are not here, there's no one guarding the Array Pavilion in Qinyan Town. If the higher-ups investigate this matter, the Qianzuan sect will be in serious trouble. Jiang Chen nodded to himself when he heard that. However, they were already in the Qianzuan sect. Jiang Chen couldn't do anything about it. Moreover, Lu Shan, Tong Sang, and a group of alchemists and array masters were there. Even if Jiang Chen wanted to chase them away, he probably couldn't. How about this? Let Pavilion Master Tong Sang come back and hold the fort. I'll go to the Qianzuan sect? That's what I meant too. At this moment, the two of them looked serious. They seemed to be thinking for the Array Pavilion and Elixir Pavilion, but also for the Qianzuan sect. However, Jiang Chen's lips curled up slightly when he heard that. He almost laughed out loud. If you want to go to the Qianzuan sect, then go. Why find so many excuses and reasons? Jiang Chen smiled. Joining the Qianzuan sect doesn't mean you're leaving the Array Pavilion and Elixir Pavilion. Really? Then, I'll go now? The two of them hurriedly said with a hint of excitement in their eyes. As Jiang Chen had said, the man and the woman had stopped Jiang Chen here not because they wanted to make things difficult for him, but because they wanted to enter the Qianzuan school. It was because today, Lu Shan and Tong Sang often returned to Qinyan Town to purchase medicinal herbs and array materials. At the same time, those who remained in the Array Pavilion and Elixir Pavilion learned about Jiang Chen's deeds from Lu Shan and Tong Sang. Especially those pill recipes, the lost alchemy techniques, the 9 minor mysterious formations that surpassed the heaven rank, and those array diagrams. All of this attracted the attention of the people who were still in the Pill Pavilion and Array Pavilion. In fact, some pill alchemists and formation masters were planning to leave the Pill Pavilion and Formation Pavilion to join the Qianzuan sect. As the saying goes, the one who strikes first gains the advantage. Those who enter the sect first will always receive better treatment. As such, the two people in front of him were naturally leaving first. You can go to the Qianzuan sect yourselves, Jiang Chen said softly. But first, you have to pay rent to join the Qianzuan sect. You just have to bring some things over. Otherwise, I can't take it if you freeload in the Qianzuan sect. As soon as he said that, the two people in front of him were in a mess. They knew Jiang Chen's identity as the sect master of the Qianzuan sect. Therefore, they really could not imagine why a sect master would be so stingy. So stingy. I'm the deputy pavilion master of the Pill Pavilion in Qinyan Town. He's the deputy pavilion master of the Array Pavilion. The two of us still have to pay rent to go to the Qianzuan sect? The middle-aged man frowned and was a little displeased. If you don't want to pay, then don't go, Jiangchen said mockingly. Even Lu Shan and Tong Sang have to pay rent to join the Qianzuan sect. You two deputy pavilion masters want to enter for free? What do you take the Qianzuan sect for? As soon as he said that, the two people immediately fell silent. To be honest, they did not expect that their pavilion master would have to pay rent to join the Qianzuan sect. So, since the pavilion master had already paid, how could the two deputy pavilion masters not pay? In that case, we'll pay. Then the two people left, but they did not go directly to the Qianzuan sect. Instead, they returned to Qingyun town first. Jiangchen did not think much of it. He turned and walked towards the sunset forest in the south. Along the way, Jiangchen met several groups of people. These people were dressed very casually, but each of them had a bloody and murderous aura. Monster hunters? Jiangchen thought to himself. He could not help but take a few steps to the side. He did not want to walk with this group of monster hunters. After all, in the eyes of monster hunters, only benefits were king. For benefits, they would do anything, regardless of right or wrong. As long as it was beneficial to them, they would attack and even kill. Jiangchen had once ascended the throne and became the king of gods. Although his hands were stained with blood, he would not kill the innocent. Monster hunters were different. In their eyes, everything could be killed. Little brother, are you going to the sunset forest alone? At this moment, a group of people walked over from not far away. The leader was a one-eyed burly man. He was shirtless and had a strong murderous aura. In particular, when he looked at Jiangchen, his eyes flashed with greed. What does it have to do with you? Jiangchen was unwilling to pay attention to him. After whispering, he continued forward. However, after a few steps, this group of people caught up and stopped Jiangchen. What's the matter? Jiangchen frowned. Although he was unwilling to deal with monster hunters, it seemed that it would be a little difficult now. A straightforward person does not resort to insinuations. It's robbery. The one-eyed burly man in the lead narrowed his eyes and sneered. A brat in the upper position of the spirit realm dares to come here alone. What a good piece of meat sent to the door. Robbery? Then go ahead and rob me. Jiangchen curled his lips, a trace of disdain flashing through his eyes. This group of people did not have high cultivation realms. The one-eyed burly man in the lead was only in the lower position of the body realm. With this level of cultivation, you dare to rob us? Since you are young, hand over your valuables and we will let you go, the one-eyed burly man said. Be obedient and avoid physical pain. You have poor taste. Jiangchen face-bombed. He really couldn't understand why this group of monster hunters would rob him. One had to know that Jiangchen was really poor. Moreover, of all people to rob, why did you rob Tianqing God King? Your foresight is too unique, isn't it? Cut the crap. Hand it over. Boss, don't waste words with him. Let's do it. At this moment, several upper-position spirit realm monster hunters behind the one-eyed burly man spoke up, looking impatient. As they spoke, one of them stepped forward. True Qi flowed on the surface of his body, and gusts of wind howled from his body. How dare you! How dare you rob in broad daylight! However, just as Jiangchen was about to attack, an angry roar came from afar. Then, a sword light like the light of the stars flashed and pierced through the man's chest. Chapter 25. The cold light of the sword was like the brilliance of the stars. The demon hunter who was charging towards Jiangchen died on the spot. At the same time, 3 youths walked over from afar. 2 males and 1 female. One of them was dressed in white with a purple crown on his head. He was quite handsome. The sword gleamed from before was slashed out by this young man. The other youth walked in front. His face was slightly pale, but he was extremely handsome, even a little devilish. However, there was a trace of arrogance in this youth's eyes. Especially when he looked at the group of demon hunters, there was a trace of contempt and disdain in his eyes that was not concealed at all. Even when he looked at Jiangchen, that arrogance was still fully displayed. As for the female, she looked rather ordinary, but her figure was extremely hot. Especially the pair of peaks in front of her chest, they were simply towering into the clouds. Star Sword Sect disciples? Star Sword Sect disciples. It's 300 miles away from Sunset Forest. What are they doing here? The group of demon hunters frowned. When they looked at the three youths, a trace of fear flashed in their eyes. Without waiting for the three from Star Sword Sect to come closer, the one-eyed man waved his hand. With a dark face, he turned around and left with his group of subordinates. This was because although Star Sword Sect was very far from Sunset Forest, it was very famous and was even a seventh-rate sect. Its disciples would often come out to train, and all the disciples who came out to train were very strong. Just like the three Star Sword Sect disciples in front of them. The weakest was the female, but her cultivation had reached the upper level of the body realm. As for the youth in the lead, his cultivation had reached the middle level of the mind realm. With the strength of the three, the one-eyed man naturally did not dare to stay. Are you all right? At this moment, the white-clothed youth walked over with a gentle smile and asked Jiangchen. I'm fine. Jiangchen shook his head and said, Thank you. Humph, with this little cultivation, you dare to come to Sunset Forest? Even if you don't die in the hands of demon beasts, you'll die in the hands of those demon hunters. The youth in the lead said with contempt. Chu Yuan, next time you encounter something like this, it's best not to interfere. It's a waste of time. Senior brother Lin Mo, sword cultivators have always been righteous. If I had not acted, he would have been killed. The white-clothed youth, Chu Yuan, said. What's done is done. You can't blame others for being too weak, said the leader of the group, Lin Mo. As soon as Lin Mo said that, Chu Yuan immediately fell silent. It was obvious that Chu Yuan was afraid of Lin Mo, and didn't dare to say much. Senior brother Lin Mo, Master asked us to come out and train. He also asked us to pick a stalk of raging flame grass. The woman frowned. The raging flame grass grows in the depths of Sunset Forest, and the journey is dangerous. Why don't we bring a few more people and take care of each other so that we can get the raging flame grass earlier? With this level of cultivation, you want to bring him along? You're sending him to his death? Lin Mo said disdainfully as he walked past Jiangchen. Jiangchen didn't care about this at all. He waited for a while until Lin Mo and the others were far away. Only then did Jiangchen move forward. He's only in the middle level of the thought state. How can he be so arrogant? Jiangchen thought to himself. He shook his head, speechless. Perhaps others didn't know what was in Sunset Forest, but Jiangchen knew it very well. There were many monsters in the periphery of Sunset Forest, and there were even Taoist realm monster kings guarding it. In the depths of Sunset Forest, the monsters there were as powerful as human cultivators. Monsters of this level were like thunder and rain when they attacked. If a mere thought state cultivator entered the depths of Sunset Forest and provoked those monsters, he would definitely be killed. What made Jiangchen speechless was that Lin Mo and the other two had come to Sunset Forest for the same purpose as him, the raging flame grass. Fine. Since Chu Yuan helped me, I'll protect you this time. Jiangchen sighed and followed the three of them from a distance of about 1,000 meters. Half a day later, when Jiangchen passed through a small forest, the light in front of him suddenly dimmed. The trees around him grew taller and taller until they covered the sky. From here onwards he was considered to have stepped into the boundary of Sunset Forest. Boom! Boom! They continued forward. Before long, the sounds of battle could be heard ahead of them. Jiangchen's eyes flashed. He gathered his true qi and looked over 1,000 meters. He saw Lin Mo and the other two fighting a monster in the upper level of the physique realm. Given their cultivation, a monster in the upper level of the physique realm naturally couldn't hurt them. However, when Jiangchen saw the monster, he silently wiped away the cold sweat on Lin Mo and the other two's behalf. The monster was shaped like a bull. It had 3 horns on its head and black scales all over its body. Its tail was flat, and there was a wisp of green fire at the tip of its tail. This monster was a blue fire jade bull. It wasn't strong, but it was a herd monster. Are they really stupid or ignorant? Since there's one blue fire jade bull, there must be others around. Jiangchen muttered. If you continue fighting and wait for the other blue fire jade bulls to rush over, the three of you will be exhausted to death. However, Lin Mo and the other two had been cultivating in Star Sword sect and didn't know much about monsters. Therefore, they naturally didn't think much of a blue fire jade bull in the upper level of the physique realm, much less retreat. Moo! Moo! After a dozen breaths, just as the blue fire jade bull fell, the sound of bulls roaring could be heard all around them. In 3 breaths, the trees in the distance collapsed and debris flew everywhere. Another 3 breaths later, more than 30 blue fire jade bulls appeared and surrounded Lin Mo and the other two. At this moment, Lin Mo and the other two's expressions changed drastically, especially the girl. Her delicate body was trembling. Blue fire jade bull king, middle level of the thought realm. Jiangchen wiped away the cold sweat on Lin Mo and the other two's behalf when he saw the blue fire jade bull in the lead. A blue fire jade bull king in the middle level of the thought realm was enough to kill Lin Mo and the other two. Moreover, there were more than 30 blue fire jade bulls around them. Under normal circumstances, Lin Mo and the other two would be dead without a doubt. At this moment, Jiangchen no longer hesitated. The stars in his body exploded, and his true qi gushed out like a river. A gust of wind seemed to appear under his feet. It took Jiangchen only 3 breaths to cross the distance of 1,000 meters. Why are you here? Hurry up and leave! Chu Yuan was stunned. He didn't expect to meet Jiangchen at this time. Scram! Are you here to die? Lin Mo shouted angrily. Don't cause trouble. If you die, I won't help you choose a grave and carve a tombstone. Hearing their words, Jiangchen's lips curled up slightly. He looked at Lin Mo and said, You're not bad, but your mouth is a little foul. You! Why aren't you leaving? A herd of blue fire jade bulls and a bull king. We don't have time to protect you, Lin Mo said coldly. A gentle true qi burst out from his palm, trying to push Jiangchen far away. Chapter 26. Although Lin Mo was proud and aloof, he was not a bad person. Just like now, when faced with a herd of blue fire jade bulls, his first thought was to ask Jiangchen to leave first. However, if Jiangchen left, Lin Mo and the other two would die without a doubt. After all, the blue fire jade bull king was not to be trifled with. Have you ever heard of the saying good people get good karma? Jiangchen chuckled and moved sideways, dodging Lin Mo's attack. Then, he took a step forward and stood in front of Lin Mo and the other two. What are you doing? Are you trying to get yourself killed? Lin Mo and the other two were shocked. Chu Yuan rushed forward, trying to pull Jiangchen back. Moo! However, as soon as Chu Yuan took a step forward, the blue fire jade bull king let out a roar, and a green flame fell in front of Jiangchen like a canopy. 9 words of battle, defense like a mountain! Jiangchen's eyes narrowed, and the true qi in his body burst out. The genuine energy condensed and turned into a bell in an instant. There was also the shadow of a mountain behind Jiangchen. Boom! In the next second, the green flame fell and collided with the bell formed by true qi. The flames danced and the golden light exploded, and the sound of a bell was heard. However, the blue fire jade bull king's cultivation was much higher than Jiangchen's. Even if Jiangchen used a divine skill, he could not block the flame. The true qi bell only lasted for 3 breaths of time before it shattered. Run! Lin Mo glared, and the green sword in his hand vibrated, sending out rays of sword qi. However, the flame was too fierce, and the green light burst out, as if it could melt everything. The sword qi rushed into the green flame, but it was like throwing stones into the sea. There was no reaction at all. It's just an evil creature. How can it hurt me? Jiangchen was very calm. Even though the bell of genuine energy had been broken, so what? It was just a wisp of his genuine energy. Boom! In the next moment, the green flames surged again, as if wanting to drown and burn everything in the surroundings. However, when the flames fell, the illusory mountain behind Jiang Chen suddenly shook. It was as if a great force of heaven and earth had gathered together. Strong winds blew in all directions, and the color of thick earth burst forth. The blazing green flames soared into the sky, but the moment they collided with the illusory mountain, they were shattered and turned into a rain of green light, which then dissipated into nothingness. Puff! At this moment, Jiang Chen's face paled. After all, his cultivation was too low, and the difference between him and the Blue Fire Jade Bull King was too great. Fortunately, he managed to hold on to this flame. Still not leaving? Let's go! Behind them, Lin Mo and the other two exclaimed. However, they soon realized that they were surrounded by Blue Fire Jade Bulls. It was too late for them to escape. Moreover, since Jiang Chen had made a move, he had no intention of retreating. Seal of all beasts! At this moment, a bright light burst out from Jiang Chen's eyes. His hands formed seals repeatedly, and the essential chi in his body was vast and mighty, but it turned into wisps of mist in front of him. The mist condensed, and in a few breaths, it turned into a rune. The rune jumped and flickered with divine light, and a terrifying pressure spread out from the rune. What is this? Seal of all beasts! This is the Beast King's sex ultimate skill! Lin Mo and the other two exclaimed and widened their eyes. They could not believe that Jiang Chen actually knew the seal of all beasts. This was a skill that was not passed down to outsiders from the first-rate sect on the godless continent. Once this seal was used, all beasts in the world would have to submit. Moo! Moo! At this moment, the Blue Fire Jade Bulls around them let out roars, but they no longer attacked Jiang Chen and the others. The Blue Fire Jade Bull King stood on the spot, and a hint of struggle flashed through its bell-like eyes. It was fighting against the seal of all beasts, and it wanted to break free from its pressure. Unfortunately, the seal of all beasts targeted all demonic beasts and ferocious beasts in the world. Even a demon king or a beast king would have to submit in front of the seal of all beasts. Let's go, Jiang Chen said softly and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He smiled and said, My cultivation is too weak, and the seal of all beasts won't last long. If we can leave the Blue Fire Jade Bull's territory in 30 breaths, we can live. What if we don't leave? The woman asked. Jiang Chen rolled his eyes and said snappily, Big breasts but no brains. If we don't leave, we'll die together. Let's go! As soon as he said that, Lin Mo and Chu Yuan reacted quickly. With a soft shout, Lin Mo carried Jiang Chen on his back, and the four of them rushed backward. Forward! Jiang Chen hurriedly said. I still have to go deeper into the Sunset Forest. Why are you still going deeper into the Sunset Forest when you're seriously injured? Do you want to die? Lin Mo's words were as unpleasant as ever. However, Jiang Chen knew that this fellow's mouth was a little foul, but his heart was very kind. If I want to die, no one can stop me. If I want to live, I'll live as long as the heavens. Jiang Chen said softly and lay on Lin Mo's back. He said mockingly, Hurry up. Forget it, we're going deeper into the Sunset Forest too. We'll go the same way. Lin Mo said softly and led the way forward. Lin Mo and the others were very fast. In 30 breaths, they had already traveled more than 15 kilometers and left the Blue Fire Jade Bull's territory. We're safe. Jiang Chen chuckled. A human-shaped mount. What? Lin Mo was stunned. He didn't know what Jiang Chen meant by human-shaped mount. However, Lin Mo quickly came to his senses. It was only now that he realized that although Jiang Chen looked pale and spat out blood earlier, in reality, he wasn't seriously injured at all. That was just blood seeping out of his chi and blood. To a cultivator, that wasn't even considered a wound. You made me carry you on purpose? You think I'm your mount? Lin Mo flew into a rage. He threw Jiang Chen off his back. The cyan sword in his hand was emitting a radiance. "Senior brother!" When Chu Yuan saw this, he hurriedly rushed over and stopped Lin Mo. He said softly, "Senior brother, if we really fight, we might not be a match for him." Lin Mo also realized what was going on. After all, for someone who could block the Blue Fire Jade Bull King's attack, it didn't matter how low his cultivation was. Moreover, Lin Mo also understood that Jiang Chen's martial techniques were extraordinary. He shouldn't be an ordinary person. "Kid, I saved your lives, and now you're going to attack me?" Jiang Chen laughed. "Thank you for saving our lives." "Thank you?" Lin Mo's expression was ugly, but he still thanked Jiang Chen. However, Lin Mo felt very uncomfortable. Even though he was in the mental state, he couldn't raise his head in front of Jiang Chen, a spirit realm cultivator. It was as if he was being suppressed. "Disciples of the Star Sword sect, why have you come all the way to the Sunset Forest? Just for the blaze grass?" Jiang Chen looked up and stared at Lin Mo and the others, confusion flashing in his eyes. "You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.